Hello and welcome to Uncut crossed with Pop Screen. I'm not editing it, so it's not a problem for the annual program where we look at the year in review. But unlike other podcasts, we don't do it in top tens. We do it month by month. And at the end of the episode, we'll talk about our top tens very, very quickly. But to run through the year that was 2025 in movies, I have been joined by Andy. Hello there.
Hello.
Kat.
Hello.
And Caitlyn. Hello.
Hello.
And I've been joined by Simon,
Hello.
Robyn,
Hello.
Mike,
Hi.
and Aidan.
Top it all off.
I'm still laughing at Mike's hi. It's just pleasure.
Good luck.
So jumping into the second half of the year, just the one for what would traditionally be the blockbuster season, but like the festival season, blockbuster season just goes on forever. It never ends. It's eternal. And the one for July is from Andy. It's Superman, James Gunn's Superman.
Okay. Plenty type. I've had to pick some form of superhero movie, and I don't have Marvel in it this year. So, yeah, this was my actual number one for the year.
I mentioned in a so not to pull over the curtain and show what's behind it, but there was a brief break and there was a brief discussion during this recording where I said my favorite film of the year is one which might be controversial to people. Yeah.
Mm.
I didn't know that a blockbuster film could make me feel anything like that. But I sat down and I watched this film, and by the end, I was just like, every second of that was doing something which made me think, maybe there are still large budget films being made, which I can see, and they will genuinely make me feel like they speak for what the wider world wants to see in these times.
I have never been the biggest Superman fan. I'm more of a defender of a lot of the Zack Snyder stuff than most people are, and I appreciate that objectively they're maybe not good movies, but I kind of given them time. Giving them their time, sorry. But with this Superman, I kind of instantly fell in love with it. It has elements of James Gunn's humour, which can be hit or miss for folk, but it's for a definitely more kid-friendly audience.
It's so interesting to see a filmmaker who started out in trauma create this kind of this wild, joyous kind of maximalist film, which is just, isn't it just great to like fight for the fact that, you know, other people deserve to kind of live safely and together in community in spite of what billionaires wish for us. It's just kind of like, it's also a film where a very queer-coded, played by a lesbian actress, a woman with massive hawk wings, flies in screaming and picks up and splatters across the ground a genocidal dictator, which I think is something we all needed to see. And my jaw was agape at the fact that, oh, they went there with what this film was doing, because I know James Gunn has technically had to say, oh, no, this isn't reflecting anything in our world right now. No, it really is. It's reflecting about 5 separate things happening in our world right now.
And it's very political, which I was surprised about. There's a lot of political elements to it that I didn't expect, especially for a major Hollywood movie and the way times are just now. It's not an origin story as well, which is always... maybe for a reboot you would maybe expect an origin story, but they treat their audience with a bit more respect and knowing who Superman is. And I just found it charming and lovely. And you know, the experience I had with it was taking my 7-year-old to it. But she'd been about 6 at the time. I think it was just before her birthday. So and having that experience in the cinema of her being really obsessed with it, you know, we just had a movie day. The adults had a night out, so we had a movie day the following morning, and we stuck Superman on because our friends hadn't seen it, and I still had the same feelings watching it again. It has David Cornsweet as probably the best Superman since Christopher Reeve, because he's hopeful and he's nice and approachable. I like Henry Cavill, but that was never his Superman. He was just a grumpy, kind of brooding type of character. I think Nicholas Hoult worked really well as Lex Luthor. The story is very basic, it tries to dress itself up as maybe not being basic, but it is fairly basic. Lex Luthor doesn't like Superman, and Lex Luthor's willing to do whatever he can to stop Superman, including ending the world and destroying Metropolis, blah, blah, blah. But I just thought that Gunn managed to get the character of Superman so well. He's meant to be a beacon of hope. He's meant to be essentially an immigrant that's coming in. And I just loved it.
No, good on you. Yeah, no, the new Superman I think's great as well. And I'm not a big fan of James Gunn's work previously because I'm not a fan of the Guardian stuff. I haven't seen the Suicide Squad. It's just he's never really done that much to interest me. Maybe because of obviously the Marvel fatigue that I've had over the last decade or so. But with Superman, it was just a kind of breath of oxygen that I needed from him. It was just a really fun maximalist film that's got its heart firmly in its right place. And I just love the fact that you see a Superman who's not perfect. And that's always been my biggest gripe with the character. You see him as this perfect embodiment of what a superhero should be, and apart from kryptonite, not many flaws. But here you just see him be vulnerable. You see him get beaten the snot out of in this film.
He's not perfect. He just really strives to do right, and I think that's wonderful. It's finally after me watching a lot of superhero films and thinking, "Come the fuck on, I don't care." What am I supposed to think about the fact? Oh yeah, people save this and that and fight each other and whatever. I don't care. A superhero that saves people is in itself enough that made me think I had forgotten why I love blockbuster films like this, and I love that it's sincere beyond anything. I love that it's something which is made and makes lots of decisions which could be considered not so marketable in some ways, even though a lot of it is. But it makes the occasional decision where I'm thinking it just makes kind of these swings and includes little moments that might not work. It's like studios would actually complain. It's what's got me even more worried about the whole awful Warner Brothers Netflix situation. Is just I don't think a film would be this bold about the fact that kind of everyone deserves to be happy, and it be a kind of, if you want to stop that, you suck, and just saying that completely outright. I was thinking I didn't know a superhero film could be like this.
It's one of my favourite superhero movies probably all time now. I'll rewatch it, and as I said, we rewatched it recently, and the wee one loved it as well. Still, I know their attention span can be, their attention span can deviate when they're rewatching. But it's not. Is it the best movie ever made? No, but it was what it meant when I watched it this year, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
anybody
I need to
else?
rewatch it because my child 2 days before I watched it brought in The Most Heinous Bug, so I watched it 2 days after being very ill. It was really warm and it had been sports day just before it, so I was not remotely in the right frame of mind. I enjoyed the introduction of Supergirl, who was doing some sort of drunken walk of shame, which as an ex partying millennial, I identified with.
I regret not seeing it because I think I've written it off as I'm not that interested in Superman, and everything I've heard about it, and obviously what you said about it, Robyn, I've got to bump that on my list.
It'll be a nice festive watch. If you spend any time with family over, stick that on. You'll fun for all the family and enrichment for all the family as well.
It also ends on a good Iggy Pop needle drop, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, I know that shouldn't be a news flash. It is funny. I was really struck by how genuinely funny a lot of this was, and it's not just the sort of, oh, well, that happened kind of gag that we sort of learned to roll our eyes at. No, big proper laughs, big character-driven comedy in this.
I just love the fact that the citizens of Metropolis like take a giant monster invasion as like just another Tuesday for them. So
Yes.
like just walk nonchalantly, just think, oh yeah, another monster just attacking the city again. Moving on.
Which is the greatest, I think, fake news headline in a while, which I've seen. Which
Metahumans kill thing.
Metahumans kill thing. It's just over like the corpse of some creature that is obliterated in a previous scene.
I like the fact as well that it just uses all of these things that you like understand to be, you know, just things that happen in a superhero movie, and you know who Lex Luthor is, and you know who Superman is, and you know who the Kents are, you know who Lois Lane is. You know, it just you're there already.
You're just there as part of it.
Yeah, and it doesn't waste any time. It clocks in just about 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't waste any time. Packs it full of the good stuff, and also some stuff that you didn't even know you wanted, like like Metamorpho and his little rocket bum. You know, it's great.
Who is just a delightfully strange character that you know will not appear in anything else James Gunn makes because the budget clearly spiked when introduced that character. One of the most joyous things is the fact that there is a dog in it. There is a dog in it. And what the trailers perfectly hide is that this dog is a force of pure carnage. The dog appears on screen, and you just see basically a blur, and about 5 things are destroyed in the background.
That dog is a bastard.
It's wonderful. It's so delightful. I love that it's actually James Gunn's dog mocapped.
Oh, that's amazing.
James Gunn does animal characters like nobody else, and Crypto just, oh, what a good boy he is.
He's not. He's a terrible boy. He's lovable with it.
I mean, yeah, literally.
I got an orange kitten this year, and I would have 10 Cryptos in place of fucking Yoshi. So yeah, you want chaos? Get an orange cat. But don't.
To the kind of guy who worked in veterinary for a while, I could have told you don't go for orange cats. But I suppose
That's what she wanted. It's what the child wanted. But yeah, apparently it's we took him to the vets, and the vet was like, you understand that like ginger cats are like hyperactive and low intelligence, and it's like, oh well, that's gonna be a fun like 20 years.
Oh, you've given me a perfect segue there. I've got to use it. But go on, Andy.
No, I was just going to say my only issue I think is Rachel Brosnahan. Could have been given more screen time as Lois Lane. I think she's a very good Lois Lane, and her and Colin Sweat have a great scene of an interview that lasts I think it's actually about 10 minutes, the interview. But after that, I feel like she gets sidelined a touch too much and could have been given more time. And I forgot to mention Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific,
Yeah, he
and
steals the
the Hot
show.
Girl. Yeah, they're all great in it.
While we're on the subject of things that the new owners of Warner Brothers might find politically offensive that was somehow made on a blockbuster level, let's talk one battle after another. Let's have some small beers and talk one battle after another. Yeah.
It's an immensely satisfying film. There's the one shot, I think it's in the trailer, of Benicio del Toro in the trapdoor, pulls it down, and the carpet rolls over it.
Yeah.
However many times I took to shot it, it was worth it, because that's the most beautiful shot I've ever seen.
It's full of them.
Yeah.
It's full
So
of these amazing, horrifying comic moments that, you know, play differently, like every time you see a clip of it.
Yes.
I'm ever since it's dropped on digital, there's been about like 5 different perspectives on whether Colonel Stephen J. Lockjaw's I love black girls. Do you love black girls? You know that as a legitimate horror movie threat, as a satire, as like a just bizarre, like unnecessary comic beat. You know, it's the fullest meal of a film I've had all year.
Totally, yeah.
It's a good fucking movie.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've talked the hell out of it because me and Graham did a pop screen on it,
Yeah,
about a month
although
ago.
part of me still feels like we did like an hour and 15 minutes on that one movie, and I still think I haven't scratched the surface of it.
Yeah, I'm yet to rewatch, but I have seen lots of clips, particularly the a few small beers clip, just like on repeat.
Yeah,
for me, it's any scene with him and Comrade Josh is just makes me burst. Hey there, prick!
First stupid fucking name.
Any film you're just watching Leonardo DiCaprio eat shit for like 2.5 hours. It's got to be the funniest fall from a building.
Yes.
That genuinely made me gasp.
I was doing, oh wow, oh he's just gonna completely fuck everything up. Like I was amazed how consistently he fucks everything up.
It's just like, well, this is going to derail the plot for another 15 minutes. We were just about to get going again, weren't we? But yeah, that's the thing. It's about failing upwards, but then failing upwards on the on the merit of other people who do have their shit together, who are fighting the revolution, even though you've done your innings on it.
And I think ultimately the idea that underpins it is that everyone has their breaking point. Even the guy with the radio signals, who's theoretically brilliant and can talk to you about the failures of late capitalism and what needs to replace it with such eloquence, but the second they apply pressure onto his family, he falls, he turns informant, because everyone's got their pressure point. And rather than being pessimistic or cynical with that insight, it just says, well, that's why we need a movement, guys. That's why we need solidarity. And I think, American cinema is predicated to such a great degree on the lone hero who sorts everything out. It's the myth of the West. And at times this film looks like a Western, and it's beautiful. It's big, VistaVision 70 millimeter shots of the California desert. That's great. I love that. It's in my blood. I always adore that stuff.
Yeah.
But the point of it is so different, and it's infused with that sort of gift Paul Thomas Anderson has for making a character comprehensible, despite them not actually having a sense of who they are. Like, there are characters in this where I understand them better than they ever will. And I think that's just the brilliance of him as a dramatist.
Yeah, it totally is. That, and it's a fastly paced film, isn't it? Every time I go to see a Paul Thomas Anderson film in the cinema, it's always like, wow, that was absolutely riveting. And it's just like, and he knows how to do it. Even like the final car chase in the desert.
Amazing. Never seen a car chase like it before.
So great.
Yeah.
It's just a car chase in a straight line. And
when everybody's going at the same speed.
Yeah. How does it work?
It's the biggest film of the year that I've not seen. I genuinely
Robyn!
not seen it. Yeah, I ever wonder why that's not in my top 10, because I've not seen it. I know it's everyone's favorite film of the year, but I've just not seen it because I didn't watch it in cinemas because I was annoyed at Leonardo DiCaprio for numerous reasons. And then by the time I've got around to it, except now I've learned that would be beneficial to me when watching it. And now I've been trying to fit it in for this podcast before anything, and then I look at the runtime and I'm like, I can't get this in around my assignments. Like, I don't care how fast it feels, I genuinely do not have the time. So
it could be even faster if you put it on 1.5 speed.
No,
as Netflix will want you to.
1.5 battles after another.
Also, I just have to say, I think Tiana Taylor is the sexiest anyone that has ever looked in cinema.
Yes,
that's like that openly. It's just like you can see. Oh, yeah, this is worth ruining your entire life for this. For this character. Like
this is worth briefly abandoning white supremacy for. And also my performance of the year. I think Perfidia Beverly Hills is an incredible, multifaceted character. I've seen the film twice and I've had a different read on who she is and why she does what she does every time. And I will be furious when she loses the Best Supporting Actress Oscar. I don't know who she'll lose it to. I don't know. I don't know who she's going to lose.
Depends who.
Amy
I'll be angry.
It would be really funny if she wasn't Amy Madigan. That would be really,
It would
really
be quite funny.
Yeah, fair.
I imagine Sean Penn's great. It would be quite funny, but Benicio del Toro snuck out and stole it from him.
Mate, he's my pick.
Yeah,
I love Sean Penn.
The way he walks, I don't know,
out of that car wreck at the end. Yeah, it's
man,
wow.
You like Sean Penn? You like Sean Penn? I love him.
Yes.
Yeah. I totally forgot to do 28 Years Later, so just imagine that I did miss that in June. But myself and Andy picked that one, which again, talking about divisive movies with the monkey, that one, he cut the audiences in half with that one too. I think mainly because of what happens at the ending and this group of people who think it's not in the universe's law, which the original movies had, which is kind of nuts to tell a director that it's not in law with the universe, but the internet's got internet. So, yeah, there is
This
that.
is where I'd remembered Jack O'Connell from earlier. I've seen him in something again recently.
It's absolutely fearless that, he was presented that character and he thought, yeah, you know what, I can do something with that. Because most actors would think, no, my career. I don't want to destroy my career. But no, he jumped into that with just feet first, which fair play to him. He's fearless for doing that.
That reveal is my absolute favorite bit of that movie. Yeah, we'll do all the heartfelt stuff and the thing. That reveal towards the end, fantastic. Bring on the next one.
Yeah, utterly fearless. I think Alex Garland co-wrote that with Danny Boyle as well, and it seems that Alex Garland was just in Burn the Universe more than he just did not care at all.
Yeah, I just thought it. I think I can't remember if I messaged yourself, Rob, or Kat after it, maybe both, saying if I had watched that in another day, I might have felt that was a 1 or 2 star movie. Today, I'm kind of feeling 4, and then I rewatched it, and I was like, nah, it's 5 stars. Just Jodie Comer, even again, I keep talking maybe about marketing a bit too much, but it felt like it was going to be an Aaron Taylor Johnson hero journey for me when looking at adverts, and it is not that. It's nowhere near that.
Kind of.
Ralph Fiennes is
the young lad, some school kid that they found, and he just this revelation. Yeah, but Aaron Taylor Johnson, the movie completely abandons him as a hero pretty much the first opportunity you can get. But yeah, the what's she called again? The Scouse actress, completely forgetting name. Julie Comer.
Jodie Comer.
Yeah, that scene. That's why I can't watch this movie again for a while, because that is raw stuff.
But it's so I think it was. I think when I came out of it initially, I was kind of shocked because I was expecting, we'd had 28 days, we'd had 28 weeks, and the best. I like 28 weeks later. I think it's a fine kind of up into the anti-action movie, but the best scene in that was the one directed by Danny Boyle. The farm scene at the start, and I was kind of expecting more of that chaos than what we got. I was expecting the kind of shaky cam element, or the guerrilla filmmaking element that we got in 28 Days Later, and there is violence, but it's not the be all and end all. And the fact that it was quite contemplative and reflective, it took me a while after watching to really get to grips with it. And it wasn't until I rewatched where I knew it was coming, I was a lot more appreciative of it. I think I had it maybe as my second favourite of the year. I don't like zombie baby things. I don't know if I'm going to go full spoilers. I just never have. But I will never seen them done by.
There's worse examples.
No. Oh God, well, yeah, there is. I will never seen them done by Zack Snyder. personally. Like, I've maybe just missed some other things where they happen and they've not been done well. But again, it's not even a huge criticism. Like, I can understand what they're doing. You know, a virus is going to develop and it's going to mutate and it's going to change. So you would assume that the victims of that are going to mutate and change as well. And the only thing was watching it with my mum.
Yeah, the
And
giant monster penis, which should be
yeah,
awkward. Yeah,
man. I mean,
where do you even look?
we both shifted. I'd finished my popcorn, so I couldn't look in my popcorn box. So I just had to sit there and take a slap in the face, literally.
My favorite thing is I have a friend who has never seen that. Like, she watched it on a big screen and came out and was like, what's everyone on about it? It was like, how did you miss it? And so it's the perennial thing now is like, right, well, you didn't see that come in, so you're not going to see anything else. Like, yeah, incredible. I think this is one that makes more sense once you know it's one of a new trilogy, right? If it's on, going into it thinking it was a one-off, weird film. Knowing it's the start of a new trilogy makes much more sense.
Yeah. I'm not jealous of one person in this group at all. Well, I don't know if anyone else has seen it.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed 28 Years. Again, one of the ones that I sort of pivoted away from because I knew it was inevitably going to come up. I think Jack O'Connell is fantastic in the short space of time that he is on screen. You know, having his clan Power Rangers camera to the sky as they flip over, just perfection. But yes, I have been lucky enough to see where the story goes in the Bone Temple, and again, it is just like 28 Years was very different to what's come before. This is very different to Bone Temple is very different to 28 Years. So we are getting to know where Spike is at with the Jimmies, and Kelson is there, and you know there might be more giant dong. You know, I think that's been shared in the trailer. But yeah, it was inevitable that they were going to have the third film. I know there was all this, if the second one makes some money. They already really had it all queued up, and they've just used that as a way to kind of like pull some more people in. But I'm excited now to see where they go for the final installment.
Yeah. I mean, 28 Years probably made a ton of money just on the UK market alone, because it seemed everybody saw that one.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of Americans that really hated it, and like were like it's a one-star film or whatever. I do wonder how much of the story is just because it's so intrinsically British, and you know, like analysing us as a broken society in the wake of Brexit. You know how that translates overseas. But yeah, I think over here it was particularly like resonant with us all.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
did notice a very strategically placed loincloth in one of the images of Samson for the new movie, and I don't know if that is there in the actual. She just as a.
Well, I mean, they can't really have they can't have dick out in the poster, Andy. You know, kids are going to see it.
Yeah. It's not a loincloth. It's like a full blown bath towel. So you know.
Nothing sort of surprised me more than how heavy the theme in this summer's movies, July, August, and September. How many films about grief there are here, man? Because this was a grieving year. And I think the one with maybe the most backstory behind it would probably be the Shrouds, right, Simon?
Oh yeah, I think so. So this is the new David Cronenberg film, made in the wake of his wife's passing. I think 2017, something like that. It's about a businessman called Karsh, who's played by Vincent Cassel, who has come up with this pioneering technique where you can view your loved ones' decaying remains through 3D imaging technology within their grave.
It's a
you can go to the grave.
Movie, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it is on brand, let's say. So you can view it through an app on your phone. You can actually go there and look at it on the little screen, and show it to maybe somebody that you are going on a date with, just as like a way to break the ice. That's kind of the level at which the film's very, very interesting sense of humor operates.
Is this Cronenberg's commentary on Tinder? What?
It could well be. No,
it's mainly his film, possibly the first film about AI-induced psychosis.
There we go. Yes, I was just about to say it might be the most virulently anti-AI film I've seen this year, because not only is it all about this weird, perverse technology, but he has a chatbot assistant. I can't. Is it a Honey? I believe, which is one of Diane Kruger's 3 roles in the film. Who is quite helpful to Kosh, but also likes to jab him in the ribs every now and again. Remind him that he's a bit of a sick freak. Guy Pearce is also there as his former brother-in-law, playing an even worse little freak. But yeah, Robyn, definitely AI psychosis is the way that this film kind of like gets its way under your skin, because there is a plot line involving the Russians and the Chinese, the unseen Russians and Chinese, who may or may have not put small tracking devices inside his wife's corpse, and who may or may not have attacked his graveyard and ripped the cabling out of the ground, so he can't actually see his wife's corpse anymore. This is a extremely, extremely strange film. And I think it's arch in the way that Cronenberg is like the only one who can like get away with this, because this is kind of what he's been doing for 5 or 6 decades now. He's always populated his films with these weirdos who sort of talk around their lives like they're some sort of thought experiment, but they are dealing with deep-seated human emotions about how complicated it is that you can't ever have sex with your wife ever again, how you only have the memory of her body, but then those memories are of ones where she was decaying while she was alive. It's some really, really dark stuff in this film, but it's also extremely funny and arch. And Vincent Cassel is kind of operating in a sort of borderline Tommy Wiseau-esque register, but it's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah,
he's having this rant in the car. He's just like, you piece of shit, you have destroyed my cemetery. How dare you? And it works. I don't know how it works, but it does. And I think it's because of what Cronenberg's like bringing to the table, and all these messy, cold, hot, sweaty, disgusting feelings he's bringing to the table. I've seen this film twice. It's stayed with me pretty much all year. I think it's a pretty major piece of late period work from one of the best out there. Has anybody else seen it, liked it, hated it?
Afraid not. No, it was a blind spot for me.
I saw it, and I'll confess it's one I probably need to revisit, because I don't think it entirely did it for me, but it does have a great sensibility to it. I think it does touch those really interesting ideas. I like the bits where it's Cronenberg very obviously drawing from his own grief, because it's talking about the really messy, weird bits of grief that people get. It's a great movie about how grief turns you into a weirdo, and it's kind of even if you already are a weirdo, grief can make you act really, really weird in ways you don't realize, and it's kind of funny. And it's kind of like suddenly we have a guy who is really, really insistent on showing people his dead wife. He doesn't realize anything is odd about this. It's just part of his life now. But it's an interesting film, but I like how it approaches kind of saying the things about grief which everybody feels but nobody is willing to say. And I do like that a bit, but it's something I need to rewatch because it is fun. I just felt it was a little bit disjointed from my personal.
Oh, it's all over the shop. To the point where the ending happens, and I went, "Are you serious?"
Yeah,
the ending happens.
Yeah,
genuinely, first thing in the credits is the fashion brand that made all the big outfits.
I mean, they're very well dressed. To be honest,
they're very well dressed. That's part of the point. But...
Yeah, I always struggle with Cronenberg when he's this arch. It's like Maps to the Stars, and I struggle with, and that's probably more on me than him. It's like, I always love his ideas, always love what he's trying to do, but yeah, it just didn't quite work for me. But I know other people loved it, including yourself, obviously.
I mean, yeah, I would begrudge nobody, not getting on this film's wavelength at all.
I wanted
but
to
it's such a specific wavelength that I was like, I don't think I've ever been on this before. I don't. It's not that I want to get off, but I don't want to get off at the same time.
Mike, would you like to talk to us about another horror film that deals with grief, specifically Bring Her Back?
Yeah, which I can only think of.
Okay.
The title reminds me either of the Olivia Rodrigo song or the Les Mis song, unfortunately. Bring him home and bring him back. This is a compliment. This is a horrible film to sit through, and I don't want to watch it again. Actively painful to watch at times. There's one scene involving a knife that just sets my teeth on edge and just sets me on edge. It's absolutely excruciating. It's been a while since I've seen Talk to Me. I remember being probably my favorite horror of that year, and this is my favorite horror of this year. Just being out Sinners, because this, while Sinners is, as we talked about, great, this viscerally really knocked me for six. And the best thing was I saw this as like it was like a secret screaming, like a secret that Cineworld does. I think it was if you pay attention to the releases, you can work out what they usually are. So I had the expectation it's going to be this. And the best was when the BBFC came up saying what the title was, I heard someone go, "Oh no, I'm not ready." And they didn't know how right they were. I think what's amazing about is how empathetic it is. So you have Sally Hawkins. We know why she wasn't in Paddington 3 is because they saw this and realized she's not a good mum, is she?
She's a terrible person in that film. I mean, I'm sorry,
but she's also but she's also a great mum. I think it's a
she's too good a mum almost.
Well, quite exactly. I think I have a look at it. She gives an unbelievable performance in this. Bringing a character that could easily be like sort of cartoonish, villainy of like scheming character, but everything she does is just at too much level. That's the problems. That's where the problem lies. And you have a great pairing. So of these two, this brother and sister who their father dies and they have been so adopted by Sally Hawkins. And these two leads they found are absolutely remarkable. Billy Barrett and Saoirse Wong. Saoirse Wong, particularly as she's an actual partially sighted actor that they got for this. And what was amazing is they throw her about towards the end of this film. The fact that she's actually doing that, and they obviously would have done it safely, is an absolute miracle. I think it captures like just the absolute gut punch of grief in a really visceral way, in the way that Talk to Me did. And it, like I say, it just hurts to watch. And I think, I'm sort of surprised that I think perhaps because it's such a tough film in many ways, and it's an emotionally tough one as well. Not even just this, you get moments of gore and sort of body horror-y stuff, but it is the emotional intensity, particularly with Andy of he's not being allowed to process his grief and have the relationship with his sister that he wants, even that. And there's a brilliant thing of like they have a phrase that they share between, I think it's watermelon, and it's never explicitly stated what that is, but you know exactly what it is. And I think that's a testament to these guys' screenwriting. In fact, it's 2 for 2 for me. These guys are like absolutely, I think, incredible filmmakers. I think the fact they made this so quickly after Talk to Me is extraordinary. And I can't wait to see what we'll do next. Yeah, I can see how people might fall off it, but it just absolutely got me in my guts.
I liked
I
it quite a
suppose
bit more than Talk to Me, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought Talk to Me kind of had the beginnings of like a really great horror film, but like just kind of stopped a little bit before it really got there. But yeah, Bring Her Back is a really full meal of a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fully,
I think
fully 18 film. This is an
Yeah.
18 film.
Yeah.
New Australian Extremity, I think, is what we should start calling their movement. But yeah,
I'll say that
pretty strong stuff.
I wasn't particularly the biggest fan of it, but I will note a couple of things. I think it ends on a really, really interesting, kind of interestingly bleak note, which isn't necessarily everything is the worst thing ever, but rather, what if you've done something horrible and unforgivable and you realize that you can't take it back? It also features one of the most gnarly means of possession being achieved in something. It's just like, in order to, what is the most horrible literal way you could take a dead person and put them inside your body? And that's quite good. It also features a great, hear me out, scenery chewing performance.
That watching that, I was like, how did they do this not for real?
It's so horrible. It's
and a great needle drop from the Veronicas.
It's really good needle drop.
Really horrific use of that song.
It's weird because everything you've said about Bring Her Back, which I haven't managed to see yet, is something that I also want to say about the next film, which I guess is a trilogy capper, another 18 certificate horror film with an absolutely killer needle drop about, I guess, a more abstract form of grief this time. But this is Zach Cregger's Weapons. I was really struck down by how much I loved this film. I didn't get around to seeing Barbarians, and I somehow missed the rubbish-looking teen sex comedy he directed in his early years. So I'm pretty much going in blank to a Zach Cregger movie. As soon as those kids run out of their houses in that, it's such a wonderfully raw narrative hook because it does feel like a real case that you might have heard about. You know, it has that perfect kind of, oh yeah, I think I watched a YouTube video about this kind of ring to it. And they all run out of the house to Beware of Darkness by George Harrison. I mean, that is just such a perfect movie moment. And I think the film as a whole feels we've all had these moments where we're still getting out of the habit of just consuming television and movies and TV movies and reality all coming down the same pipeline. And as we get back into cinemas, we're having these little moments where we think, oh yeah, this is what a movie is. This is how a movie's different. To me, that was absolutely one of those movies, and it won me over instantly. And the film that follows did not let me down. There are maybe a few moments of comedy that are a bit too broad, but equally, they're always followed up by a gag that really lands. I love that it's sort of a zombie movie, albeit a zombie movie where the accent is on possession and, you know, entrancement and all of these other things that don't tend to come up after George A. Romero codified the idea of a zombie as a reanimated corpse. It has gorgeous performances, particularly from Julia Garner and Amy Madigan.
Yeah.
I had reservations, but I picked it, as well as Caitlyn and Andy. So I'll let you two field this one because,
This, again, I keep saying was not what I expected. You know, Zach Cregger's Barbarian was just fantastic in its way to throw you off the scent from what you thought you were going to see. And we can go into spoilers for that. But the whole thing with Weapons, I thought, was how terrifying the trailer was, but how funny the movie was. The humour in Weapons for me was actually probably the standout. You know, there is some very unsettling scenes. You know, someone falls asleep in a car when a door opens, and somebody comes out, which is really effective in its tension. Benedict Wong I think was one of the first clips released when he's running at Julia Garner, sorry, at the petrol station. I think for me the standout was the humour. You know, there's the end scene is one of the funniest things I've seen in a horror movie or
And
horror comedy
it's so
in
disturbing as well,
years.
but it's
But
hilarious.
it just works so well. And I think it was it was maybe a releasing of tension at that point as well. You know, as a very tense movie, even including the humour. And the cast are just fantastic. The guy that I always get mixed up with Emil Hirsch, Alden Ehrenreich.
Yeah.
Because in this movie, to me, he just looks like Emil Hirsch. Was and just everything about it. It's just such a surreal movie, and it was a surreal experience watching it because again, I was hit with something that I wasn't expecting, and it worked.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think Zach Cregger is very quickly become like the most incredible storyteller. In that you go into his movies not really knowing what to expect. I mean, Barbarian is great. It takes a turn. He's a thoughtful director, but he's an entertaining director. I think he does kind of like mainstream big budget right in that he hasn't totally sort of pushed everything to spectacle. There's still stuff to delve into. Because I think Barbarian is obviously hilarious. Like there's a scene within that where Justin Long starts to explore the house with a tape measure that is so brilliantly comedic that you just sort of lean into that. There's a warmth to his films that you lean into, and particularly in this with the kind of change of perspective that he does. And like at no point did I know where any of this was going, but I was really, really content to sit in my seat and let it happen. And I think that's the mark of a really interesting storyteller. Is someone who you are able to just go, okay, I'm going to let you do your thing. I'm just going to suspend everything that's going on outside and I'm going to let you do this. And it really pays off. I mean, there are obviously things that stick in my mind, like the appearance of a rifle above the house that obviously we can dig into and do a lot of that sort of almost esoteric searching for meaning. But equally, you've got a very satisfying payoff outside of that.
It feels like it's sort of post-elevated horror now, where it approaches the genre from this perspective that, okay, you sort of expect that there's going to be subtext now. You sort of expect that there might be a long build-up. Yeah, we'll take that as read. We won't sort of cram the seriousness of it or the maturity of it down your throat. We can actually have fun with it and do all of those things at the same time. I do think it's an allegory for school shootings. I do get the Magnolia comparison. I think it's actually more like Pulp Fiction, particularly in those...
Yeah. Okay. I see that, yeah.
But in those marvelous moments where the stories cross over and you get added context for something you've seen done in just a couple of shots, and to go back to the cinema versus television point, you know, I can very easily imagine a mini-series version of Weapons where all of these things are expanded into their own episodes and thrashed out and, you know, thanks, I hate it. I'd much rather see
here he goes again.
Yeah, it's if television would stop being shit, I wouldn't have to keep saying this, and yet here we are.
I did.
Someone's not watching Pluribus. Sorry.
I was about to say, yeah.
It's really, really great. And he is just. I'm really excited to see what he does next because his method of storytelling is so interesting.
My only slight issue I had with it was the runtime, and it's not particularly long, but I think the way the story was getting told by flashing back and going to a certain point and starting again, I did think so. It's just short of 2 hours, and by that point, when you were retreading, I started to get a little bit antsy. But that was more personal. That's not necessarily anything against the movie. But it's just, and it's probably why I didn't have it as, I just went by Letterboxd. I didn't have it as a 5-star. But it was proverbial of just being off that for me. But yeah, I can't wait. He's is it Zach Cregger that is pushing himself for a specific franchise that he's really wanting to do
I
something
think
with?
Resident
He's-
Evil next. Yeah.
He's doing Resident
doing
Evil.
yeah.
Right, I'm a bit interested to see that because Welcome to Raccoon City wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Certainly in
They
comparison
did
to
Leon
those.
dirty. I'm just saying that. They did Leon so dirty.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
it's a fun
someone
movie.
like him, like I think if you're transferring a game or the game's lore to the screen, I think you have to be able to juggle horror and comedy. And maybe Resident Evil isn't very comedic, but I don't make it like comedy like Paul W.S. Anderson did and just make it stupidly shit. But
About his wife.
you think-
Yeah. And Leon at his wife. That series was.
yeah,
I mean, my only I had a big reservation with Weapons. It's a mystery which doesn't complete the story. And I heard apparently they're saving that sort of last bit of connective tissue for a potential sequel. The studio was anyway, and that kind of took a little bit of the shine off it for me.
Yeah, I think after the success of the Gladys character, they're looking at doing some sort of prequel, I think, that kind of fills in her history, which you don't need. I mean, will I watch it? Yes, but I don't need it.
I did watch Weapons in preparation for this, and I will say, this is me. I did not see it in cinemas because I will say I went to see Barbarian, and there was a point about half an hour into Barbarian where I sat there and my brain just thought, "Fucking really?" And then even though I'd really liked the film up to that point, and then Justin Long appeared, and let it be known, publicly stated, if Justin Long appears in something, I will suddenly not want to be watching it. That being said. He's not in. I know that's a controversial opinion, and he's not in Weapons much. So when I watched Weapons, I was like, I don't fully care for what this is doing, but it is conceptually there, and I really like it. But again, there is a segment of it with Benedict Wong, which is the strongest portion of the film, in my opinion, where it becomes an utter nightmare.
It's that balance of just bleak child neglect and torment and just hilariousness that is just the whole sequence where she turns up at Benedict Wong's house and they've got their little hot dog spreads.
One of the funniest shots in a film this year of an exquisitely planned table spread of lunch, which made me burst out laughing even though I had already heard about it.
And then she asks for a bowl and then it's like, what? And then it just goes completely batshit. It's like, yes, so good.
And secondly, features the horrible visual of what if somebody basically puppeteered you in kind of this entrancement, and not only were you conscious, you also realize the person puppeteering you has forgotten to make you blink. And you're running down roads as bugs are hitting you. The progressing makeup over the course of that scene is both kind of hilarious and also the most disturbing visual in the film.
I kind of wish that the marketing hadn't led with that. I think that it was a very good marketing campaign for keeping the actual villain of the piece completely completely out of it. There were images in the film that I did recognize from the marketing involving Amy Madigan, but then I think the Benedict Wong stuff is such a distinctive set piece to lead with that actually in the film you're seeing it there's 2 chapters in between where it begins and where it ends that I didn't particularly find constructive. I'm not a huge fan of the way that Cregger tells his stories.
No, I'm not a fan of it.
No, I do understand, Graham, the whole your like of it, but there was just something where it felt like it was getting in its own way, and it felt like what was ultimately a pretty strong 90 minutes kind of ironed out and tucked into the corners into 2 hours.
It works better here because it's a very conscious decision in this, as opposed to the very obviously I didn't know where to take the film moment of Barbarian, where suddenly it's let's derail the really interesting plot we've had up to this point.
Do another movie for a bit.
Justin Long for about a half an hour just saying the F slur.
Yeah, Zach Gregor.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
Zach Gregor frustrates me a lot. I think he does a lot of good setup and then just goes, and just does a silly run around. He's done it in both of his movies, and but the moment the run around happens, I go, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" And it just pisses me off.
It happens less here, but it does.
It's pretty
still
egregious. I
happen.
immediately checked out as soon as very last 20 minutes, and said, oh, okay. Even though it has probably has one of the scariest scenes of a woman walking out like she's been puppeted and getting in the back of a car.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's an amazing scene. So I think I can't write him off entirely because he's clearly a good director, but get someone else to write the scripts because
it's reminiscent of possibly my favorite shot in the classic Amicus horror anthology From Beyond the Grave, the shot of Diana Dawes on the bus with the Angela Pleasance's hands behind her, snipping her hair from a seat behind. And
I will
it's
take your word for this
because it is very reminiscent of that shot in the moment that happens where someone gets an unexpected nightly visitor.
Yes.
So good. And just the amount of people dressed up as Gladys for Halloween. It's always nice when a horror film gives us, a new fancy dress option.
Yeah. I think as well, literally the closest I've ever come to maternal is the sequence of this film with the kid. It broke my heart. It's a genuinely feeling thing. So it's like it's a mastery to be able to manage like your horror, your melodrama almost, and your humor all within one. I think if we keep getting Zach Gregor's like this, him doing Resident Evil sort of fills me with this sense of meh that I'm not proud of, because I kind of want to see what he can do with his own stuff more and more, because I think that's more exciting. But I appreciate it might be a one for them, one for us situation, and I'm quite happy with that.
Can I just throw my hands in the air and just say that I really enjoy weapons? Okay, yeah,
of course. I like weapons. I should say. I really wanted to love weapons. Sorry, go on in.
Yeah.
No. I think I get the criticisms, and I think for me it's again the multiple perspective thing. Because, and I'll tell you why, because I'm just kind of tired of horror movies being like grief-ridden, which is kind of how it's meant to be, where as Craig, he just spins it on his head a little bit and pokes and has a little bit more fun with it. Case in point, where he gets someone to stab Eldenreich in the face with a heroin needle. That I really enjoyed for some reason. And it's nice to see, just to quickly add, it's nice to see Alden again, because I've missed that guy.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him at first. I was like, oh, right, yeah, it's him.
Would that it were so simple.
So moving on, I guess one for us, maybe it was a married couple. At least I think they were married, or still are married at the time of doing it. But it's Together, which Caitlyn and Andy picked, which had a little bit of controversy, but that kind of got swept under the rug pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of reading about the controversy last night, because I was like, I'm not going to come on and defend this film, even though I loved it, and I do love it, if it is as egregious a feed-in thing as it seems. So the difficulty is that the film that alleges it's copied from Better Half is not available anywhere. It hasn't received distribution since the festival scene. So it makes it very difficult to compare and contrast. The things they allege are very similar, are almost so obvious. It would be weird if you didn't do it. I say that as a Spice Girls fan. I say that as a horror fan. It would be weird if you didn't do it, or if that's like, I think people's minds are going to go there more than they aren't. If it was a more obscure pick, I might have said, yeah, they've got a case. I don't know. I think that will be revealed in the fullness of time when that film is more available and people can pore over it.
Yeah, I mean, there are two. So there's that one, and then there's also Benjamin Brewer's short film, A Folded Ocean, which was more the effects. And yes, having seen that short out of Sundance, the effect, the couple kind of like the people like conjoining and stuff is similar. but there are only so many ways that you can meld people together digitally. So it's like, did they see that little short and go, we're going to copy this and steal it? Probably not. It's just an unfortunate thing of there's only so many ways that you can mesh people together unless you're going to go down the society route.
Yeah. And also sort of conjoined thinking across releases is a thing. My favorite example is obviously Kill List and a Serbian film, two very different movies. You could accuse one of being a rip-off of the other. One is superior, we all know. But like, you know, it so happens that if you have X amount of creatives working in one medium, in one space in time, dealing with the social, cultural, political stuff, they might come up with something similar. Whether that's direct plagiarism or, you know, something more sinister or even just an accident, you can't really tell. From the sound of it, it sounds like this script went to Dave Franco and Alison Brie, or their agent, and it was a very quick thanks but no thanks, which didn't even indicate that they'd read it. So, you know, as I say, without the full movies available to kind of rank up together, very difficult to say. But for me, it's one of my favorites of the year. Again, for not being afraid to be a bit silly and a bit horrendous, and really amping up the body horror in ways that you might not expect. I think the comic beats are really good. The chemistry is obviously there because your central couple are married. So you're coming at it from a much different entry point then.
I think, it was again, this is kind of similar to Weapons. It was the comic beats that I found really worked incredibly well for me in this. I never thought that years ago when I was watching things like Pineapple Express that Dave Franco would have been the Franco that is the good one.
The superior Franco.
He's not the scumbag Franco. I think that's the only
exactly. Yeah, that was kind of. But aside from that, like it was just, and I've not seen Alison Brie in a huge amount apart from Community. But I thought the two of them, as you said, Caitlyn, the chemistry's there. It's going to be. Although I can't imagine working all that time if you're married when you then see each other at home could be a bit of an issue. So they've obviously worked around that well.
It's not the first movie they've done together, so it's seem to have it down, I reckon. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. I think it was like a Cabin in the Woods movie from a few years.
Right. Okay.
They've done a lot of stuff where they've been together. Like she's got a bit part in The Disaster Artist, and they're always popping up in each other's stuff.
Okay. Oh, cool. But I thought it was great. I think their two performances. It took me a lot longer than I'm proud to say to figure out the kind of end game with symbols and things like that. But then when it clicked, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. But I thought it was great. And for me, I've mentioned body horror. I would never go to. I don't even go anywhere near it. It was on the right side of not being too grim. There is horrific elements, especially that scene in the corridor that they have together. But I just thought it was do you know what? It was just an entertaining movie that had good horror, that wasn't jump scares, and that had really excellent comedy beats, as Caitlyn was saying.
Yeah, really good comedy, excellent little horny bit, brilliant body horror effects. Like, it just works so well. I mean, from the very beginning, it sets itself out as silly, right? It's a little bit silly. And there's so much stuff that's seeded throughout that just works so well for it. And I had a very nice time. The people in the cinema with me did not have as good a time. But that's their problem.
I got it on No Sleep at Fright Fest, which appears to be my go-to thing. And I just enjoy that so many of Caitlyn's picks are about some sort of bad relationship in some way.
Wow.
And
you mentioned that Spice Girls call at the end.
Mhm.
That just I'd piss myself laughing at that. It was fantastic. It was just a great way to end it.
It really is, because and like it's so cringe as well, like the first half of it, and I would almost compare it to, like, the first half of the Babadook is sort of exhausting as you watch this woman just try and navigate, trying to move her life forward and to deal with everything. And I kind of feel like the first half of Together is very much Alison Brie trying to like get this man to do whatever he's going to do, because her proposal is probably the most inward I've ever cringed at something in a cinema. It's so bad. And I think when you have that closeness between actors, you can really play with that in a way that you might not get with people who don't know each other well. I don't think they have to be married. I think it just has to be an existing collaboration that can really leave those beats as long as they need to.
Yeah, that was awkward.
Yes. Moving away from the horror genre, keeping it in August as well, is one of my picks from a director I don't really like. Darren Aronofsky's latest movie, Caught Stealing, which is basically like 2 hours of look at Austin Butler, isn't he hot? Which, if that's your thing, go for it. It caters to that very well because he's naked from quite a bit of it. But what it is I hate the criticism or the analysis that so many people have where they compare it to either I can't remember his name, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels guy. His name's a blank. Guy Ritchie or Quentin Tarantino. That's the only 2 people who made these sorts of caper like 90s crime movies with like big ensembles, which is just unfair because that's like a whole genre, which is one of these things. I interviewed somebody later in the year who made a movie in this sort of mold, and it's just one of these things that you don't miss these genres, much in the case of Ash earlier, until somebody offers one up to you. And it's just one of these. It's another subgenre I like. It's the One Bad Day subgenre where he's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and literally everything that could go wrong does go wrong. It got a great turn from Matt Smith as a punk, who is really stretching himself with that because he's a nice boy. He's a lovely boy, Matt Smith, but he doesn't play one here. And it's just got a great ensemble. It's got 2 Hasidic Jews who are really unpleasant gangsters. And from all of it, it was one of those, who are those people? But it's Vincent D'Onofrio is one. It's always nice to see Vincent D'Onofrio in something because he's great. I think Liev Schreiber is the other one.
Yes.
And it's just that sort of casting throughout all of it. It's got a cameo from I'm terrible with names today. Laura Dern in the end credits. It's just stacked as a cast, and Lenny Kravitz's daughter's in there as a small role. It's just one of these sort of how badly can this day go for Austin Butler, and it just gets more entertaining the longer it goes on. And yeah, just very, very fun. Lots
Rob,
of people
you're not
have talked
mentioning the cat. You're not mentioning the cat, Rob.
I was building up to it, but the cat is the sort of the MVP. It bites people a lot. It doesn't like people, but it loves Austin Butler, and it plays like a huge part in his ruse at the end, which is a devious cat. But yeah, it's just
which
fun.
Actually, Kismet. People watching on the video, this is the cat. This is the cat when he was in Pet Cemetery. Didn't know Caught Stealing was on your list. Yeah, Tonic the cat. He's got range.
He's got great range. Then
he can do mean and moody, and he can also wear a little leather jacket and ride a car on the red carpet. Honestly, if you're not following Tonic the cat on Instagram, just do it. It's a joy. Yeah. That cat is just a joy.
But this is just a fun movie, and it's got a good cat in it as well, which is the icing on the cake. But yeah,
someone
people
who's
have
not
talked
a
it down,
cat
saying
guy,
it
I'll
doesn't do any.
tell my
People
wife.
have talked it down, which has annoyed me. Is it doesn't do anything revolutionary? Why does a movie need to do anything revolutionary? You got to be entertained, and this entertained me massively. So it's I loved it. Caught stealing, even if I don't like the director. The last time he was great was probably Black Swan, which is going back a way. But yeah, Caught stealing is so much fun.
He's another one kind of like Eggers for me, Aronofsky. Like, I liked The Wrestler. I thought it was okay. Black Swan, and marketing again. Black Swan wasn't what I expected. And then, Mother, never.
Yeah, not great.
I sat through that somehow, and then came out angry. But
yeah, it's just a classic sort of 90s caper crime movie, which was just so much fun.
Wait, is Aronofsky Requiem for a Dream?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just a horrible day ruiner as well. Yeah.
I really like his day ruiner type of stuff, like Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, The Wrestler. Yeah, they're all up there for me. Bring on the misery.
We're going to break our run of horror. We're still on grief as a topic, but we're going to move on past horror with a film that's adapted from a work by Stephen King. That can't be right, can it, Mike?
It can. It's The Life of Chuck, which
I wanted to see this. Yeah.
Look, I know you could be critical of this and say the narration gets in the way, and it's doesn't necessarily like really hold up as a story, but I just fell for this entirely. I think it's just pure sentimentality, capital P, capital S. I think it taps into things I love. I think it uses dance in a way that I just found really engaging and affecting. And I think it taps into a thing that I find genuinely scary, which is sort of the idea of like a life sort of cut short, but knowing that you're not going to reach the fullness of what you want from your life and having to reckon with that, which I just find really unnerving. I think it taps into that in a really interesting way. So it's this story told backwards, and I think it's funny because I read the short story. I mean, literally about like an hour before I went to see the film, and it's a very faithful adaptation of what the story does. Basically, it pretty much follows it pretty much beat for beat with a bit of expansion in like the third part of it. Because it basically starts with chapter 3 and then goes backwards. And I just really fell for his charms. And I know like Mike Flanagan can be. I think when he's in this mode, when he in stuff like I guess with Blind Manor, particularly, I think people have problems with him. Things like when he sort of leans into sort of schmaltziness. It can rub people off the wrong way, rather him being scary. I don't know. This is a film that it just really, really struck me. And I think Mark Hamill gives a great performance. Jacob Tremblay, I think, is particularly good. I think in this as well. I think the third segment is probably the second segment. I think is a genuinely wonderful bit of sort of musical cinema, basically, of just this dance sequence that appears completely spontaneously, but obviously, I think it does an amazing job of a clearly choreographed scene that is meant to be spontaneous.
Yeah,
I think it's like I'm a sucker. This is me in my full softy mode, basically with this film. I was the person who loves musicals and will cry. Who first film I cried at when I was young was watching Benjamin Button, which I know is not a good film, but again, it taps into a theme that I find emotional. And yeah, it just all worked on me. I think it's just pure sentimental cinema in a way that just rubbed me up the right way.
I checked because I have a full list of the films I've seen from this year ranked, and I was going to say out of my top 10, this was my 11, but it's not. It's my 12. But yeah, this came so close to being in my top 10 of the year, and because it's so good. I'm a big Mike Flanagan defender on all fronts, and I think this is one of his films. It is my second favorite of the King adaptations from this year, and I liked all 4 of them. Yes, all 4. And it's even that one. And I was going to, but anyway, the thing about this one is the sentimentality really, really works with it. But also the first third of it is one, an absolute cosmic nightmare, and two,
definitely.
probably one of the most genuinely upsetting kind of movies, which it's not about COVID. It was written long before COVID, but it feels like one of the most kind of haunting, what if the world is just fucked, the moments from kind of post-COVID perspective, and it's brilliantly done and very, very haunting.
Yeah, I agree. That was where I responded to the film most, I think, when you really don't know what's going on, because I think the film introduces this linchpin of the Walt Whitman poem, and the quote, "I contain multitudes," which I think is a very, I'm gonna say corny. I don't necessarily mean that as an insult.
No, I get it. I get it.
I say
it's a
this
corny
now.
thing. Yeah,
Stephen King is corny, and that's why I like that work. That's how I like. That's how I like that Mike Flanagan does it, because I think he matches the corniness.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I think just without that in the first act, that's a really great short film by itself. I think of that, that apocalyptic feeling that we might not be here tomorrow, and what the fuck does it matter,
Yeah, there's that lovely monologue that Matthew Lillard has, doesn't he? Where he's like,
he's so
when
good.
did everything stop being normal? I think it's a whole film of precision cameos. I think the Heather Langenkamp cameo is wonderful. And mostly I'm just amazed that I enjoyed it so much, because I thought the trailer was so shit. And I don't know who greenlit that "From the Heart and Soul of Mike Flanagan" tagline, but they're my enemy now. This is much better than that looked.
From the bleeding heart and tormented soul of Mike Flanagan.
From the kidneys and spleen of Mike Flanagan.
From the liver and the cock and balls of Stephen King. Sorry, Aidan.
That could have been the tagline for the monkey,
Oh, well, thank you for that segue, because we're moving to September now with The Long Walk, probably the biggest Stephen King adaptation of the year. Kat, Andy and myself picked that one, so to Kat for The Long Walk, I think.
Yeah, so I haven't not read the source material for this one, but it was adapted by Strange Darling director J.T. Molnar, and then directed by the Hunger Games man Francis Lawrence. And it is a bleak and depressing story set in sort of like a post-apocalypse sort of. There's been like some sort of like apocalyptic event that has affected the earth, and now like so many people are impoverished, and each year a representative of a young man from each state in America signs up for the Long Walk, which is basically whoever walks the furthest wins, and whoever does not walk the furthest is killed. So you start off, you've got like 50 characters, that they're not all going to make it through to the end. And for me, it was just kind of melting pot of all the Stephen King stuff that I do like. So there's a lot of Stand By Me in terms of the relationships between the male characters. You've got I forget the name, but you've got Philip Seymour Hoffman's son as Garrity, and then you've got is it David Watson as McVreese. Then it also has just that bleakness of the mist. So yeah, it was all of the Stephen King stuff that I kind of like rolled into one, and just the cast. I'm a member of various critic voting guilds, and how The Long Walk hasn't been put forward for the ensemble cast, I understand, but it's not been, and it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy, yourself?
Yeah, it was just again, the King head on. This would have been the Bachman books, which when he wrote under a pseudonym for a few years. And The Long Walk was one of them. And I've read it years and years ago, so I can't remember a huge amount about it. But in terms of the movie, yeah, Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson are the standouts, and Mark Hamill, with his background gruff general role, I think is Hamill's always going to be portrayed as Luke Skywalker, but I think recently he's been getting a lot more roles. He was in the Fall of the House Asher. He was great in that, and I think he plays this one really well. It's so bleak, it's there's a camaraderie within the group, and there's rivalries kind of developing as they're progressing, but that there can be only one, if you want to go by that. So you're kind of getting appreciative of everything that they're developing together, but knowing that it's not going to end well for the majority. And you've got that. I think that holds a kind of sense of dread throughout with it, which not having remembered the ending of the book, it was still a bit of shock to me how the movie ended. And I think, it's so grim. And I think King, when he wants to do grim, and it's been adapted from that, but the source material is still quite strong there. When he wants to do properly grim, he can land it quite well.
He's probably telling on myself, but my biggest criticism was I didn't think it was grim enough.
Oh, really?
I thought it could go a lot further, but there's a movie from the 1970s which basically does a similar thing. Nobody dies in it. I can't remember. Called "They Shoot Horses, Don't They?" which is this, but super duper grim. And yeah, the chemistry is great. David Johnson, is that his name? I'm remembering.
Yeah, it's David Johnson. It's not David Watson. I got that wrong.
Yeah, he's incredible in pretty much everything he does. His chemistry with the lad from the Paul Thomas Anderson movie from a few years ago it's incredible. Them two together, and some of the deaths are just horribly cruel.
Yeah. The cinematography is also incredible because obviously the film is just these characters walking constantly. They, if they drop below a certain speed, they're basically executed. So they're constantly moving, which means the camera is constantly moving. And just like how they would have shot some of those, I imagine it was a lot of like long takes and one-ers and stuff. And yeah, it's just like really stunning cinematography in it.
Yeah, the walk basically, the length of England as well. It's incredible.
Broken legs and all sorts of with the flu and just any question that you have when you like get told the premise of like, well, what happens if like one of them needs to go to the toilet? It gets answered. What happens if somebody injures themselves? It gets answered. And I think that was something that really surprised me because I thought they might gloss over some of that stuff, but no, they address all of it.
Yeah, the more sort of upsetting ones are when people just sort of give up. They just lose any sort of light in their eye. And it has that happen a few times, and it's just not very nice, really. Very well done and acted, but it's just kind of grim. Yeah. Any Caitlyn, you see The Long Walk?
I didn't because it's a Stephen King, and and I'm the worst person on earth.
Like it.
Yeah, it sounds miserable enough that I will check it out. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's one that, like, again, cannot remember the end of the book, but the bleak thing with King, it's I think he addressed it directly in chapter 2, maybe, where he says, "Your ending was shit to build Edinburgh," and James McAvoy's character, because people always say King can't end his books. And one of the things that always comes back to me for that is the ending to The Mist in the book compared to the ending of The Mist, the movie, which is so different. The spoilers for The Mist, which was 2010, 2008, maybe.
7.
Actually, I can't remember. 7, really? God, that's scary. That's scarier than the movie. But the book ending is just a diary that's writing and saying, "Oh, we're keeping going. We're going to see what's happening. If you find this, good luck." But then, the ending of The Mist is just so grim, dark, and horrible, and it's maybe something that he doesn't land, even with it, which is one of my go-to rereads, despite its length, is not necessarily get the best ending. And I need to go back and read The Long Walk again to see if he's if he's been upped by the movie again this time.
We've talked a lot about fictional portrayals of grief, but we are going to deal with the real thing now, because Simon, you nominated From Ground Zero.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes. From Ground Zero, Stories from Gaza, which is a compilation film of 22 short films from Palestinian filmmakers living on the West Bank. Some of them are documentaries, some of them are fiction films. All of them are, of course, done with absolutely zero budget whatsoever, filmed on iPhones and basically just cobbled together with whatever they can out there. It's not really a film where you can fully sort of say what it is, other than that it exists, and anybody with, you know, a clear conscience should kind of sit down and experience it in an age where there's so much media that is, you know, pulling on either sides of this debate. I think the really important thing is to just let the people who are in the worst situation just actually talk about it. There's things in here which, you know, convey the message maybe better than others. There's one that is about a bunch of children who are taking part in like a kind of artistic enrichment activity where they're making stop motion animations, but they're dramatizing the fear that they feel when their mothers write their name on their arms just in case they're unidentifiable from if a bomb hits them or if they get crushed underneath a building. You know, it's like it's a film where it speaks for itself, and I would urge anybody to watch it. It probably holds the same, you know, relevance and prescience as something like No Other Land did last year. I think that one is a bit more of a sort of focused, you know, pointed, fully fleshed out narrative, but the scope of this is just like, I kind of want to use the word undeniable, but it's also about the necessity of art for like human existence, even when there's so little else that they can enjoy. And yet there's no sense of like pity to the film either. There's like a strength and like a resoluteness to each of the filmmakers that doesn't encourage you know, like a belittling of them in any way. It's just very matter of fact. We're surviving, we're living, we might not, but we're gonna try and get through it any way we can. Yeah, it's a funny old thing. But I would really encourage people to seek this one out. Again, it's one of those things like an unfinished film where it's just, you know, I don't know how this would be distributed outside of, you know, like a classic business model like Mubi, or if it was just like available online via YouTube, because it's just something that needs to be seen as easily as possible. So yeah, that's From Ground Zero, Stories from Gaza.
I know there's a new distribution company or newish distribution company created called Watermelon Pictures or something, which specifies in picking up kind of films from Palestinian creatives that like otherwise wouldn't get distribution. I really wanted to see this one. It was set to be playing near me. It was set to be playing at the cinema near me, and I was going to see it because it seems deeply necessary to see. And then eventually the release date came and it just wasn't on the schedule, which was frustrating. Because I would really like to see that, because it sounds like a really interesting kind of testament to human creativity in states of like just having to endure just horrible atrocities and kind of difficulty of managing day-to-day life.
Yeah, it was a thing where it only had 2 screenings at my local as well. but it was a packed house for that evening one. So at least, even though the distribution wasn't fantastic in general, the people who did go to see it like came out in their droves. So that was nice to see.
Yeah.
Moving to one which I watched today because I was really struggling to fill out mine from September the 19th. This is a Japanese movie called Happyend. I'll keep this very brief, but essentially it's in a sort of futuristic but current day Japan, in which a couple of kids do a prank before an earthquake, and it effectively becomes a situation where the school has sort of AI enforcement come down on the high school and treat people pretty much like cattle. And it treats it sort of like a awakening of a political conscience in two different directions, and it has some interesting character dynamics, as well as some pretty cool IDM music as well, which is always helpful in this sort of situation. But yeah, it's a very tasteful character drama from Japan. Not really a lot to say about it, but it's just very impressive for a directorial debut. Great cast along the board, and it's taken some bold swings in its sort of level of sci-fi, which is more humble, I think. One of my also runs from a few years ago was The Artificial Girl, or The Artifice Girl, I can't remember its name. And it has that same sort of, it treats sci-fi as a adult subject rather than as spaceships and aliens, even though I do like that stuff too, as evidenced by me including Ash. But yeah, this is an interesting character drama, very lo-fi sort of stuff.
A very different side of heroism and a very different side of superheroism now from Robyn. You put down the Toxic Avenger.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
A few years in the waiting. Is the Toxic Avenger unrated? Is it annoyingly says on everything? No, that's not the title. The title is just the Toxic Avenger. I know that you see his greenness. I know that you see that.
They don't barely though.
Very barely. I don't know why they got so mad. But I watched it, and it's just, this is one of several movies, I believe at least 2 movies in my top 10 where the hero of the film is Luigi Mangione. This is this is a delightful reworking of the notorious bad taste cult classic, which I watched briefly in preparation for this new one because I realized I hadn't seen it, and I watched the original and enjoyed it a lot. And this I actually like more. It might not be quite as profane, but it is still fairly profane. There's quite a bit about. There is the occasional shot in it where I'm thinking, "Oh, I'm seeing this in a wide release in a cinema," but it is just, it is deep silliness and has a genuine heart behind it. It's basically just a call to arms to murder a healthcare CEO with a mob. It is just, I loved it so much, and it also features a truly bizarre and wonderful performance from Elijah Wood in a supporting role as this what can be described as a homunculus man who is genuinely one of the. There are plenty of deeply odd characters in it that are very, very fun to watch, but it's also wonderful how, even though it's all tongue-in-cheek, it's not really winking to the audience. It's just like, it knows what it is, but it's a film where it's just like, oh no, this is a reworking for Toxic Avenger, but we're going to play fully as serious as we can in universe, even though what is happening is completely ridiculous, and one of the opening shots is a bird violently vomiting and shitting at the same time. It might not be officially a trauma film, it's a trauma film.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. The sick person in my head nearly had this in my top 10. The sick little voice in my head was just like, oh, should I actually put the Toxic Avenger remake on here?
Was it Robyn?
Yeah, I was the sick little voice. I came out on your shoulder like a bit of weird growth, like a baby head, if you will, for anybody who's seen
that baby head.
So great.
Incredible stuff.
I never thought of a weird pitch of brain damage now, and it's terrifying me.
And the voice would be exactly the same, just vaguely clockable.
You remember the strange Ernest sisters? I know Robyn's familiar with Amber T, who's a critic and a friend of mine. Like she's a hardened extreme horror fan, and she cried at Toxic Avenger, which shocked all of us.
Reasonably so. It's very sweet.
Again, Jacob Tremblay cropping up again. It's a very earnest, sweet storyline amidst all the grotesquerie. There's a bit too much CGI gore, which is a little bit disappointing. But at the same time, the visuals are also baffling. I was like, I don't know how else you would do it, really. So it's worth it.
But however, this is completely made up for by the fact that there is first of all, evil TV pundits moaning about gender ideology in this film, and secondly, the fact that there is a shot, I believe, in the same sequence of recontextualizing the very fucked up diner scene from the first film as being a mini version of both kind of Star Wars The Force Awakens complainers upon release, and also the January 6th Capitol riot, which ends in someone being killed by the Toxic Avenger shoving his fist up their ass. So quite frankly, you know what film you're in for, and if you're on its wavelength, I'm in on its wavelength. And I was in the cinema with about it was me, my girlfriend, and one other couple on the other side of the room. And I could tell from the fact that at least one of them was wearing a basket case t-shirt that I knew that this was a very specific audience.
I saw us at Fright Fest, as you can imagine. That was like the perfect audience to watch it with. Really fun. Good fun.
I had a very strange experience watching this one because I saw it in a double bill 35mm with the original.
Oh, wow.
Which actually is potentially the worst way to watch the film because it is from the 1980s, in which it was literally snipped to pieces in order to get that 18 rating. So basically, all of the gore gags are not in there at all.
It possibly still contains the one thing that I am glad did not come back from the remake.
Probably the one thing.
Everything else does. Everything else does make it through.
I think I watched it a few years ago, and I was sort of wow, that is quite transgressive.
And then you can't say that.
Sorry, what? I can't.
Toxie, you can't say that. Yeah. That's not allowed.
But then, watching it with when you realize that it was just edited like that, you were just sort of waiting for it to end. So then when, this one came around 15 minutes after, I was just like, oh, this is the good stuff. And then there was just stuff that was really quite over the line stuff that was just lurking in the background. There's a school talent show where the previous act before Jacob Tremblay comes on is a bunch of school children dancing to My Neck, My Back.
Fill in the blank after that.
Yeah, exactly. Which it took me about 15 seconds to realize like what the song was, but when I did, I nearly choked on my goddamn popcorn. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I enjoyed it well enough, but I think it might have slightly been helped by the fact that the preceding 80 minutes was so deflating, So I'm definitely going to seek out the original Toxic Avenger unrated if I ever want to go see that.
Which is worthwhile.
Yeah, of course.
So bringing our heroes section to a close, there's a film which I assume is about Pokemon or something. Aidan, tell us about the Golden Spurtle.
It is not about that at all. You have to say it in a Scottish accent as well, Graham. The Golden Spurtle.
Okay. I would not have risked that myself.
This is a documentary, basically from Dog Roof, the Great Dog Roof.
Indeed.
And it is basically it's a food competition documentary. Now, take a guess at what this food cooking is for this competition.
Spurtle.
The Golden Spurtle. Clues in the title.
They're spurtling it.
Is it souffle?
Close. It's porridge making.
Oh,
So, in a village in the Scottish Highlands, Carbridge, I think, there's a annual porridge making competition, basically, that's held every year. And basically, the documentary is following that. So it's directed by Constantine Costi, who I think first-time director. So, and he interviews basically all the different contestants, analyzes the history of the show, and then eventually films it as this weird, eccentric MasterChef episode for some reason. And it's generally quite heartwarming in a lot of ways, as heartily as a bowl of porridge itself. So I caught this. It's available very readily on streaming, but it is just kind of absolutely delightful. How I pitch it to you is that if Wes Anderson stepped into the world of documentary filmmaking, everything is filmed in that perfect frame, head-on way that is just really quite nice and neatly tacked together. And all the while, you have people going into the ethics of porridge making and adding the salts into the milk and the sugar. And it's just like, what on earth have I just stepped into, basically? It's kind of wild. And all the while, you get to the competition itself as, again, this weird MasterChef hybrid that's kind of like where people are just taking tips out of bites out of each of his bowls of porridge and then judging them on a score system. Well, I think this one's a bit too salty and this one's a bit too sweet. It's what is going on here?
Does anyone say it's just right?
Yeah, Goldilocks contest.
Yeah, it is like that. It's just so much like, what is going on here? And I'm kind of enamored by this and delighted. In the same sentence, there is a guy from the West End of London who runs a villainous health spa as well. He has stepped out of a Wes Anderson movie. He was like completely mustache twirling all the way around, just acting as if, right, well, my porridge is like, I just need this a certain section of protein. All the while it has the shot front of basically the most West London thing you have ever seen in your life. Like one bowl of Quaker's oats in the back corner, basically. Every shelf's empty. It's one of those eccentric documentaries. It reminded me a lot of Kim Hopkins's work, who did a bunch of amateurs. Who I really am enamored with that lady's work, and this is on a similar way around. If you like that, I think you'll certainly like this. It is very much like one of those oddball, weird, delightful little things that only comes out once in a blue moon, that I'm glad I had it in my top 10. I'm not ashamed about this at all. I rate this. Please do seek it out. It's out on Dog Roof. I think it's available to rent on Amazon Prime as well, so it is very readily available, and it's just nice to shine a spotlight on these things.
I'd never even heard of it. That sounds great.
Yeah, me neither. I'll have some of that.
Well, as we go into the final quarter of the year, October, November, December, we must ask a question that I think should be at the forefront of our minds all of the time. Listeners, what about the men? There are a bevy of masculinity in crisis films in the back half of our review, and we should start by talking about a very particular kind of man, a roof man.
Yeah, Roofman. Yes, actually, yeah. I think I remember last year. I remember thinking I put Trap in my top 10 because otherwise I had the most miserable top 10. Whereas I think I've actually got a bit lighter this year, and Roofman is a film that I sort of went with like fairly like almost no expectations beyond that. Oh, I heard that it's meant to be all right. I like Channing Tatum. I like Kirsten Dunst. Story sounds interesting. I'm just completely won over by it. So, I like directors. I've seen Blue Valentine a long time ago, and where that was sort of quite like broken and awkward. This is sort of like, this is like an actual like sweet story of a guy who's it's basically based on a real person who basically did a bunch of robberies where he was breaking through the roof of various McDonald's because he'd worked out basically, if he went in when they're bringing the money in to the shop, he could intercept basically and take the money from the safe. But he'll always be really nice about it. He'll threaten them with a gun, but only to like, as you would to do a robbery. But otherwise, it was like, you get the opening scene where he's locking the staff workers into a freezer and chastises one of them for not bringing a coat to work. So, well, I'll guess I'll give you my coat then. And I think it's Channing Tatum is like best. I think he plays into all his strengths as like, yes, he's a big leading man, but he's also a bit of a himbo and just very, very charming and endearing. And it's thoroughly in its period as well. Like he hides out in a Toys R Us and manages to survive by turning off the security cameras and living off basically of like some random snacks basically to get through the day. Meanwhile, he falls for Kirsten Dunst's character, and they just have a very sweet, believable relationship. Again, because it's based on truth. It feels like it doesn't feel in the way of like these films that are based on a true story sort of thing. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on exactly why this feels more honest and down to earth. But perhaps again, it's the director, based on his previous stuff, he's got that knack of making you sort of invest in these people as real people. But I think it's just a guy who's just like, he's not really wanting to do any harm. He's just, he robbed people, but he didn't. It was purely out. It's a criticism of the sort of in the sort of capitalist America. What else can you do really in this sort of situation? It's the guy who means well, doesn't want to cause any harm, and they'll get the money back, and he can just live a perfectly normal life. And you're sort of rooting for him not to get caught, because otherwise Kirsten Dunst doesn't know obviously that he's had this in his past. It completely sort of just snuck itself its way into the top 10 for me, because I sort of I just had a really nice time. I was so invested in this character, their relationship, and wanting to not get caught. And then you get some footage about the real story of people talking about him, and they just talk about he's just a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And that's, I think it's lovely to see like a sort of crime film. It's like, but the guy's just really nice. I think that's great.
I was curious about Roofman because I did see the trailer for it, and it just, to me, the trailer I just don't think really did it justice for me. It just kind of painted it as like a generic kind of American comedy that you're getting over the last decade or so, and it's just like it's kind of not turning me off a little bit, really. But I could see your point though, because I have heard good things about it.
Yeah, I think it's almost a bit of a buried release. I think it's all started up maybe a bit big, and by the time I saw it, it was like showing up once a day. So it was one of sort of very quietly sort of just then faded out of. But I think I'd definitely worth checking out if you just want. I mean, if you, I don't know, people dislike Channing Tatum. Obviously, there's a lot of rests on his like charisma, which he has buckets of.
No, I did not see this. I wanted to see this, but I was unable to. I do share your fondness for low stakes crime stories, which is why one of my picks is Kelly Reichardt's The Mastermind.
Still on my watch list. Yeah, still haven't seen it.
This is Kelly Reichardt's most expensive film to date, which I find hilarious because, we've talked about this with Paul Thomas Anderson, and I don't think the budgetary jumps of the same kind of magnitude as that. But it is it is probably her closest engagement with genre. I mean, I love how Kelly Reichardt approaches genre. She's made 2 westerns where no one fires a gun. And this is a similar sort of deflationary thing. It stars Josh O'Connor, who is, by now, I would say, my favourite leading man of his generation. I love Josh O'Connor in his second consecutive role as a really shit art thief after La Chimera, which was one of my favourite films of last year.
Don't trust him around art.
Never. No, as with Harry Mulligan, I'm looking forward to the third in this trilogy. But he engages in perhaps the most low-effort art heist in history in the first quarter of this movie, where him and his accomplices have a brilliant plan which basically just rests on the fact that it's the 1970s and no one has decent security yet. The only obstacle they face is that the shit 70s car they have needs you to wind down the back window manually, and that delays them passing it into the getaway car. But otherwise, without a hitch. The problem comes with what comes after, where he finds that he has to go and hide out at some friends' houses, two of whom are played by John Magaro, who you may have seen in past lives, and also Reichard's own First Cow, and Gabby Hoffman. Love Gabby Hoffman. And also, there is another sense, there is a parallel story here, which is that the law isn't exactly tightening around his neck. I mean, the law is the only force in this movie that is even more inept than he is. But there's a sense that America is. And Kelly Reichardt, like Paul Thomas Anderson, is one of the great directors of modern movies that make a statement about America, not just about America's current politics or current controversies in America, but what this country is, what it means to be American. And in this case, a lot of the concerns that early 70s characters are having are concerns that feel very contemporary. There's a sense that America is overstretched, that it's an imperialist nation, that it's trying to stave off the realization of its decline by cracking down on dissent. And this comes through at the end in an absolutely vicious, darkly funny punchline. But mostly it is a study of one man quietly unraveling and quietly realizing that his big score hasn't actually changed anything in his life. And in this role, Josh O'Connor is just channeling early Pacino and early Dustin Hoffman. You know, the kind of male acting performances that you saw around the time that this movie is set. And I can't think of anyone right now who could do that better. I mean, we've talked a bit on Pop Screen about this phenomenon of actors with iPhone face, you know, where you see them in a period movie and you're like, no, that person's from the early 21st century. I know that. This movie has Alana Haim in it, who's the opposite of iPhone face. Like, I'm not sure I fully believe in her as someone who exists now. She's just so inherently 70s. But, you know, it works because O'Connor is just the perfect vessel for what Reichardt is talking about here. I love her. I love him. I love this movie.
Good.
I very much enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
Not, I think, to the same level that you did. I think I've never adored a Kelly Reichardt movie. And I think it's because she might just be playing at like a key lower than I'm sort of I really enjoy. Yes. I really liked Meek's Cutoff.
Yeah.
I remember barely even being able to perceive night moves when I saw it when I was like 18. I think this one is a lot more kind of on my wavelength of just like a kind of you know, slightly flippant heist movie where it's just like, well, yeah, why can't we just rip the paintings off the wall and then knock the security guard over onto the ground? And you know, that seems doable. I kind of liked how loose it was, particularly with the you know, probably the most like severe plot line sort of comes up in the middle where it's just like some gangsters kind of like want to get cut in on the action, but their screen time ultimately amounts to maybe less than 5 minutes. And that's their impact on the plot. And then the rest of the film just sort of like keeps on trundling on, a la kind of Inside Llewyn Davis. That sort of like
comparison,
trundling along in between, you know, couches and motels and
I was sort of agonizing about whether to describe him as going on the run, but that seems very proactive considering what he's actually doing.
Going on the stroll.
Yeah. On the trundle.
One of his greatest obstacles is getting a little boy out of his room.
Haven't seen it yet, but I really would like to, because the only other Kelly Reichardt film I've seen is Certain Women, which is Kristen Stewart and Laura Dern and that, which immediately sold me at the time, and I remember really liking it, and I haven't gone back to it since, so my memory's kind of hazy on that one. But
Also,
from what I saw,
think
I liked
Lily Gladstone's first.
Yeah, I think so.
credit.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, I think so.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mastermind just come out in a movie as
I was
well.
about
So
to
if you got a
say, yeah.
movie, it's just come out.
Yeah.
So moving into October is something equally lo-fi, but for a very different reason, because it took 5 years to make. 4 or 5 years, because the lead character is a good boy, and it's Good Boy. Yes. So I hand over to Kat for that one.
Yes, so I caught Good Boy when it was on its festival run, and yeah, as Rob said, it took like 4 or 5 years to make, from director Ben Leonberg, because he was using his dog Indy, and they wanted to go at Indy's pace because Indy is not a professional actor, so they built this film around it. We've had the horror movie from the perspective of like the Jason Voorhees killer in Violent Nature last year. Early this year from Steven Soderbergh, we had the point of view of the ghost, and I think this was touted as being from the point of view of the dog, but it's not. It's the dog is the protagonist. So the dog is our hero in this. Him and his sickly owner go to live in the guy's granddad's house. There's something bad in the house that his owner can't see, so Indy has to protect his owner from the demons and ghosts and things at all costs. And it's super low budget. It's super short. I think it's only like 70 something minutes long, so it's a really quick watch. And that dog is so good in it. I mean, I think this was one of those films that got hyped, or they were expecting something more, but this is grassroots indie project. It was filmed in the director's house on their land with their friends. I mean, they've got Larry doing kind of like a cameo as granddad on videotapes, but it's just friends and family and a dog. But they did a really good job at generating scares. Lee Wannell did in The Invisible Man. It's like, why am I scared of that corner? We've all lived with animals at some point in our lives, and there's what is that? What are they looking at? What can you see that I can't? The film really, really plays with that, and it's been a great year for animal actors. Tonic the cat and Indy the dog, and when are they? Along with stunts, when are they going to get their time at the Oscars? I think if you go into this film with an open mind, and I think more of a, you have to have a more wider appreciation of the horror. If you appreciate a film that's trying to do something different and was made for pennies, and this is for you. And for those people that are like, I can't watch it because if anything happens to that dog, say as much as Indy's okay.
He's also a star as well, given how he was on the red carpet circuit. Everybody fell in love with that dog.
I got to see him on an interview for about 5 seconds, and it was probably my favorite 5 seconds of interview this year. Because he was there and he was wearing his little like neckerchief bandana thing around his neck, and yeah, he was very cool.
I've seen it's one that I've missed, but I've had on my list that I've meant to catch, and but it always reminds me when I used to work in a vet's, and the dog in Good Boy is a Nova Scotia Duck Tolan Retriever is the breed. And one of the vets bought one of them one time, and I just kept calling it a crossbreed, and she got furious with me because I think she spent a fortune on getting it. It was just kept saying, "How's your crossbreed? Fuck off, no." So yeah, always anytime I see the dog from Good Boy, always reminds me of that. But yeah, it's one that I've meant to catch. I did catch Presence earlier on this year, which I wasn't huge on. But I think it seems like it's very different from that, so that's good.
Yes.
I am one of those people who has not seen it because I cannot bear anything happening to that special little boy. I'm not built for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Moving to Halloween, and it's not a horror movie as you would expect it to be, because that is ridiculous time to release a horror movie. Instead, you got Yorgos Lanthimos's Bugonia. Bugonia? However you say it. Which is one of my picks. I'm surprised because this is a remake of a movie that I love, in Save the Green Planet from Korea from about 2003. And I think together they make a very good pair. Whereas that was a bit more torture-y, I guess. Slapstick and torture-y. This takes it deadly serious, this idea that this, whether he's mentally unwell or whether he's onto something, I won't say, but Jesse Plemons takes it upon himself to kidnap. I always forget my Emma's. Is it Emma Stone? It's Emma Stone, isn't it?
Mhm.
Convinced that she's an alien from the planet Andromeda, and it introduces a second character, autistic assistant for Jesse Plemons, and it has a great deal of that sort of sadistic humour glee that Yorgos Lanthimos has in his comedy stuff, where you can't tell whether he's being serious or whether it's a joke. And I think this is in the sort of spirit of Killer of a Sacred Deer, but not quite as confusing, because I still don't know how to take Killer of a Sacred Deer. Yeah. And the ending is very, very bold as well. All I'll say is it has a sort of dead set optimism. Dead set is in the Charlie Brooker zombie thing, which you think's a bleak ending, but it's kind of optimistic at the same time.
And I mean, the final montage is harrowing.
Great.
Is it bad that I just laughed and laughed and laughed?
You do it? Yeah, no, it is funny. It's the classic. Again, even if he's not writing it, it's still got that classic horrible comedy that he's good at, and the sad slapstick that he's really good at doing.
Yeah, sad slapstick is a good one. It's like the beauty of the film is it just pits two very different but very recognizable parts of modern life against each other. You know, you have this burned out conspiracy theorists who are clinging to a ridiculous belief because they have nothing left, and that's, you know, they're ridiculous and pitiable for that. But also that Emma Stone's character is such a nightmare kind of full liberal girl boss that she tries to negotiate her own hostage situation by saying, can we open up a dialogue here? And also the fact that once you've like shaved her head and slathered her in grey gunk, and you know she's got those incredible eyes, you think she does look a bit like a grey alien. You know, that's part of the sort of slightly mean humour that the film has. It looks incredible too. It's the less commented upon of this year's two VistaVision revivals. But
Oh, right.
I never knew that. Yeah.
It has these very deep, saturated kind of 1950s colour palette that you just don't see at the movies anymore. And yeah, I really appreciated that.
It's got a great score. Jesse Plemons is great. Emma Stone's great. I won't say he can't do any wrong, Yorgos Lanthimos, because when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's kind of just a weird boy from Greece. But yeah, this is one of the good ones for me. And just for clarity, I like his comedy stuff, so Poor Things and The Lobster, the stuff that I like from him.
So I was lucky enough to go to Fantastic Fest this year, and Bugonia, the one secret screening they put on like 4, and the one I could get to was this. I'm glad I did. And I haven't had a chance to rewatch it, but I want to, because I enjoyed it while watching it, but since letting it ruminate and talking to other people about it, it's grown and grown to the point that it's now in my top 10. When I first watched it, I wouldn't have considered it. I also made the mistake of watching the original. Not because it's bad, but because it's quite faithful in terms of the plot, which is a bit annoying. But what I think is extraordinary about Bugonia is that even as I was watching, I was realizing, I wasn't sure if they were going to do the same story, because Emma Stone has done it again. Of, you know, Yorgos bringing out the best of her. She is probably, I think, maybe one of her best performances in Bugonia, of completely playing this ambiguity of, you know, she's been kidnapped by these two guys because they think she's an alien and she says, no, I'm just the CEO of a company that you kidnapped and you're going to get arrested the minute this gets out. And the fact that throughout you for the longest time, it's genuinely, even having seen the original, I was like, I genuinely don't know which way they're going to play this because it's going to have to turn out one way or the other. I think what's especially interesting compared to, I'm trying to compare to the original too much, but with the original, it's a man and his wife, and the man has gone through the worst shit imaginable, basically, and that's the reason he does these things. What I found interesting with Bugonia, I think initially I found it less emotionally intense, but I think what's interesting is that with Jesse Plemons and Aidan Delbis who's I think he's a newcomer or something. Relative newcomer. Their relationship is very interesting. That it's very much these two only have each other. Because Don, the character, you have Teddy and Don. Teddy is Jesse Plemons' character. Don, he's an autistic man. But what's interesting about it is, I think, in a worse written film, he would be a sort of, he's just plainly being exploited by his horrible relative. But what's clear is that they clearly love each other and they clearly need each other and have gone through sad stuff in their lives. And this is where they've come to. Out of desperation, because it's again walking this film, a great conversation with a friend of like she initially was really angry with it because it's like what it's saying, is this not just being sympathetic to incel right-winger people? And I think I was worried there was going to be loads of discourse around people would misread it that way, but actually I think what the film does is just show like even if whether they're right or wrong in what they believe, it's about where that comes from and how that is just sad and how without being pitying about it and without demonizing them, it strikes. And I think Jesse Plemons, if this doesn't get him the Oscar, nothing will. Like, good Lord, he gives an incredible performance of his character who he's being so committed, because if he strays off the path for one moment, as happens across this film, his life will just collapse if he doesn't commit to this one thing that he's built himself around. I think Yorgos is interesting. It's this and The Favourite. I think are probably my favorite. What some of my favorites, because it's interesting when he doesn't write the scripts. This is written by the guy who wrote The Menu, which. And I think it's interesting when you have Yorgos' visuals compared to what's a smart script that he's able to then sort of stand out and remove from, but also bring out everything that the script is sort of going for. Which I know that sounds like an obvious thing to do, but you know what I mean? In terms of like bringing out the best of what the script's trying to do.
You can see that. I can see that working now that you mention it. If it's written by the guy, but
and especially if you have this weird friend, like old babysitter of Teddy and their story together, which is sort of just comes out absolutely nowhere, and you just go like, and that's just there in the film that you have to just reckon with in the myriad of this film. Yeah,
I was expecting that performance to be something else entirely, because it's Stavros Halkias, and if anybody has been following his comedy career, it's certainly it's an odd journey that's brought him to this movie, and all of a sudden he's here, former enfant terrible podcaster,
right,
as you think he's going to be some sort of like, he's going to undo like everything that they've got going on, but he's literally there to give the most backwards backstory that might be the key to the film, but also it's like it's just bad vibes. Coming in from like from the wings of like a completely different movie. So
absolutely,
I wasn't expecting that.
No, and I think the film itself is like that. It's like, I wasn't expecting to do that. Great Green Day needle drop. I didn't see.
I don't know why I found that so funny, but I just barked out laughing when they started playing that, and I can't explain why. Which is, that's the film. That's the film all over. Well, the ultimate sort of roots of all this male unease is, in a Freudian sense, the fact that they can't give birth, which is why, Mike, I want you to talk about Frankenstein for us.
So I was lucky enough to see this as intended on the big screen.
Same.
And I think it's interesting. I know some people criticize it for looking a bit Netflixy. I think like maybe if you watched it on a TV, I can understand that. I really liked this, and I mean, obviously, but I think particularly liked how it pulls every bit of the from what I remember of the book, including the weird sort of 20 pages of prologue where there's a guy on a ship and randomly meets Victor Frankenstein and sets the whole setup for telling the story on, and makes that work, which when it really shouldn't do. And I think particularly having the dual narratives of Frankenstein and the creature setting up, having in a really effective way. I think Oscar Isaac and Jacob Elordi are both absolutely terrific. I think with Mia Goth, I guess that this is, I think, a problem with the source material. Well, not problem, it's the thing with the source material of like that character is barely in it anyway. But still, every time she appears, she looks like she stepped out of like a Renaissance painting. Like what she's wearing, the way she's standing and holds herself, it's just like incredible to look at. So it's like, even if you don't get much time to invest in any sort of love story, you can buy into it because like, oh yeah, no wonder she's stunning to like just fall into, and her relationship with both Victor and the creature, I think it plays out in it's played out in an interesting way. I think it looks great, and I think it's just it really investing in the humanness of the story, in every way. I think going into Victor's backstory in a way that doesn't feel like cheap or simplified. It feels like it's like this is a man who's like, who's desperate to find life. It's not just about like resurrecting the dead. It's not just experimental. It's like he wants to bring life where there wasn't before. And I love all stuff like even like the green vials look like the things from Reanimator. I think there's probably a nod to almost every version of Frankenstein in there somewhere, probably. I think the creature itself, looks. I mean, it just, you get the stature of it and the horror of it, but as it is, I think, I don't know. It's weird. I'm rambling now at this point. I mean, David Bradley showing up as well. I think that storyline, it's probably always like almost my favorite bits of Frankenstein is with that character, and I think it feels particularly emotionally resonant here. So I can forgive the sort of some of the bad CGI animals that crop up for how I think how much but for how much I liked everything else, and I think the way he says Victor, the way the use of language of the creature's developing language, I think is very effective in this. So yeah, I think it's just a great version of that story. I think.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So moving to November is a movie I've not heard of. In the 7th of November from Cat, One More Shot, which I don't know what that is.
Yes, I think nobody will. I caught it. Did it play South by Southwest? I got sent a screener, and I was doing a favor for the PR because on paper it's not my thing. It's kind of it was billed as an Emily Browning rom-com, and I'm not a rom-com girl, but it's also a time loop movie, and I am a time loop movie girl. And it is set on New Year's Eve, 1999. Which as a New Year's Eve baby also appealed to me. And basically this Emily Browning kind of plays this nurse she's a bit of a calamity amongst her friends, and they're going to a house party. She's kind of a disappointment friend who's like at somebody else's house and stuff, but they're all going to someone's house, and the love of her life, best friend, who's been traveling overseas, is going to be there, and she's decided that tonight is where she gets back together with him and her life is going to be perfect, except she turns up and he has a fiance. I forget the actress's name, but she was Sissy in the film Sissy. So she kind of turns up and her plans are ruined, but she's bought a bottle of tequila with her because everybody brings a bottle to a party, but this tequila has time travel properties, and whenever she takes a shot, she rewinds to the start of the night when she turns up at the party. So she kind of like uses all of this information to try and win the guy, and it doesn't go down the traditional rom-com path, which I appreciated. It's got a little bit more bite to it. And just as a, someone that grew up primarily in the 90s, it's got an amazing like soundtrack, and everybody's it's a fancy dress party, so everybody's dressed up as like Pulp Fiction and various other like popular 90s cinema. So there's that nostalgic brand to it. And I think it's partially responsible for the James song Laid being on my Spotify Wrapped this year, because God, that's an earworm.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, and I'm always good for time loop stuff, especially when it's done in an original way. I've not seen the one with Bill Murray in, because that just seems like a type of torture to me, like Bill Murray trapped in a time loop. But this, like the one that Andy Samberg did a few years ago, it has that sort of I can never remember the
Palm
name
Springs,
of that one.
yeah.
Palm Springs.
Yeah, but it has that sort of energy. It sounds like anyway.
Yeah, it was a lot more charming and endearing than I anticipated it would be. Like I say, on paper, it's not really my sort of thing, but I was completely won over by it. It's a little indie Australian film. I think the director's Nicholas Clifford. So it's Emily Browning is back in Australia making movies, and yeah, just like time loop movies are always fun, as you know, they change things and subvert things. And yeah, if you kind of grew up in the 90s, if you remember the turn of the millennium, 99 to 2000, it's gonna like kick up a lot of warm feelings, I think.
Yes, that's me as well. Moving to November the 11th is a movie I didn't expect to be on this episode, because it seemed to be disliked by pretty much everybody, except Andy, who's got The Running Man.
Now, we're still talking about men, but a very different kind of man here, a running man, if you will.
This is my most controversial pick on the entire list. I never met an Edgar Wright movie I didn't like,
Pick Stephen King again. Or the Bachman version of Stephen King again. So I wasn't expecting much of this. Me and Shan, my wife, went to see it. Or watched it. No, went in the cinema to see it, sorry. Quite late on. I think it'd been out for about a month. And this is just a really good action movie. I think the reviews, I think it was fairly positive side of Rotten Tomatoes, if you want to use that as your aggregator, but it's stylized maybe like an Edgar Wright movie is, but isn't as heavy leaning on the music side of things, potentially. I think Glenn Powell's a great leading man. He's he is. It's called The Running Man, and he's been taken under Tom Cruise's wing. It kind of works well, and he does a lot of running in this. It's very different from the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, so don't expect that if you go and see it. It's not all set in a kind of game show arena. It's all over the States.
The Running Man is the second of my two movies this year, possibly more extremely so, even though it doesn't have the health. No, it does have the healthcare aspect.
That's literally the whole thing.
Yeah, and the same outfit as in which the main character I'm watching, and I'm thinking, that's the guy. They've got the wrong man. It was Glenn Powell, in fact, who shot that CEO. But it's watching this. It is delightful. Again, as with Toxic Avenger, it's a movie where I had to watch the previous version in advance, and once again, I think this outdoes it. This is a really interesting film because it's, even with less running than you'd think, I think it's a really cool. This is my favorite of the 4 Stephen King adaptations of this year, which might be slightly controversial. And you want to think, but why not The Long Walk? Do you know how ill I was when I watched The Long Walk? I need to rewatch it because I was having an interactive experience. Yeah, The Running Man I found to just be just a kinetic delight.
I just thought it was a really good, fun action movie to watch. Michael Cera has not a cameo, but a smaller role that he kind of steals the show in.
I really liked it. It also features possibly one of the more delightful characters of this year is Michael Cera as a guy. It was one of the weirder guys of this year's cinema, who has clearly been waiting to enact untold violence all his life.
Wow.
For righteous purposes, it is funny.
Will be one of at least 3 that Josh Brolin are in for this year as well, and he's great as the kind of OTT game show host owner. Coleman Domingo is the game show host, is fantastic. The bad guys are a bit 10 a penny, paint by numbers. It's what's his name? Ronan the Accuser from Guardians of the Galaxy is the main
Lee Pace.
villain. Lee Pace,
Lee.
that's his name. Yeah. He's fine. He's there. This was just a good, fun action movie for me that I really enjoyed watching it, and so much of it was filmed in Glasgow that when I was watching it, I kept going, I've been there. And one of my friends has a photograph of Glen Powell directly outside his flat because they closed off his whole street and he couldn't park there. So, yeah, it was just interesting seeing that, and I just thought it was, a really great action movie with a great lead.
And Glen Powell being very, very angry at the state of the world, and it's the first thing I've seen him in, and it's he actually delighted me in it. He's very, very good in this role. It also features Katie O'Brien in an appearance, which means I will watch it, and it was what meant I watched the new Mission Impossible. But I watched this, and yes, there is a hard cut to her having immediately gone to a strip club and be punching out cops, which is incredibly amazing, simply because they just say, they always bring on a Playboy type character here for the season. Look, tune in now, and it just, with no prior warning, this is immediately what is happening, and she's just, I believe there's an entire stunt sequence shown from like a POV camera in that moment of just what appears to be sending several stories of a casino, seemingly barely making every single jump simply because she got caught at a strip club. It's great. It's wonderful.
I think your kind of recounting of this film is actually making me enjoy it more in retrospect.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel a tremendous amount for it while I was watching it, I will say.
That's fair.
And that wasn't there was nothing especially wrong with it. I found its kind of episodicness a little kind of grating after a while. I think it falls foul of what I call the devil's length, which is a film that is either too long or too short. That kind of ends up at about 130 odd minutes.
That is my biggest criticism of it as well, even though it is just in my top 10 by virtue of how thoroughly I enjoyed it all the way through, and also because it ends on the note that it does.
Yeah, it's a pretty strong final note. I would say that I very much enjoyed Lee Pace's faceless secondary bad guy.
He's so good.
He's so good. He's got like, it's just his frame is just unbelievably compelling.
It's great.
Yeah, I should really watch Foundation because of it. But yes, I very much enjoyed Lee Pace. The rest I could take a leave, but I'm very much glad you enjoyed it.
I don't think it done particularly well box office wise, but I would, I enjoyed it, and there's a lot of topless Glen Powell, which I think Shan's a Glen Powell fan, so it was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like I say, it's not the Schwarzenegger one. There is a distinct lack of Christmas trees, which made me sad. And there was also an underuse of Katie O'Brien. I think I would have liked to see more from her. But Glen Powell is he's well on the path to becoming this generation's Tom Cruise. I think it wouldn't surprise me if Tom Cruise and his Scientology ways is fitting Glen Powell to become his new vessel for the next life or something ridiculous. So yeah, it's it's going to keep him making money, I think.
Yeah. Thing as well, Katie O'Brien was massively underused, and there was a point where I kind of thought that what happens with her was it's all about the influence of the TV execs because they're a branch of government sort of thing, and I thought it was maybe a bait and switch that it never really
Yeah.
came to that, which I was maybe slightly disappointed in. And there's also a character who I cannot remember what I'd seen her in recently. She gets kidnapped at one point in the car, and I've seen her in something recently, and I can't remember what it was. I've taken a complete blank. But yeah, it's basically a star power vessel for Glenn Powell, and I think he pulls it off really well. I think he's very affable and he can act, which is obviously a bonus, you know.
We're going to cross over to an odd little list of things about health, but I think we can pivot out of our Men in Crisis segment with a very different take on the theme. Robyn, tell us about I Swear.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
That was possibly this year's biggest surprise. That one kind of blindsided me. Who thought that, like, a UK-made biopic would end up in my top 10 of the year, but it did. It's the biopic of John Davidson, the Tourette syndrome awareness activist, and of his life, and it is just phenomenal. It's just not only a brilliant character piece, it's funny, but it's also sincere. It's a really interesting piece particularly interesting as a piece that depicts Tourette syndrome and the way in which it deals with that, because it's very much a political statement piece on kind of calling for acceptance, and kind of it even ends on the statement, which is there are medical treatments now made to make it easier for people with Tourette syndrome to kind of live with their symptoms, but the real thing that can help people is not being shit. Kind of don't be shit to people, and it's really interesting. But one of the things that I really like is the fact that the way it presents his takes is sometimes they're funny, obviously. Just sometimes he says something funny in between the middle of the scene. Sometimes, you know, they're really like inconvenient and sad, but sometimes the camera just lingers as it happens. And sometimes it's just a fact of it. Sometimes the takes are there, even if they're not relevant to the script. And I think that was a wonderful thing. It just becomes part of the film, and it goes on this really interesting, beautiful journey. It also has Maxine Peake in it, in a very good supporting role, who I will watch in many a thing. Not on my list, but it would be, if I counted short films, was The Occupant of the Room, which features her voice in it.
Oh, okay.
But unexpectedly, I didn't know this. But it is a genuinely wonderful film that feels important in our increasingly divided times, times of, particularly in the UK, and it just felt it was a wonderful thing to watch. And it, even though lots of other people who saw it had the context of who John is, and there was a documentary on him a long time ago, which is a lot of people's first exposure to kind of learning about Tourette syndrome. And I just felt, as someone who has friends who have Tourette syndrome and stuff, even though I can't personally attest to all of this, it just kind of profoundly struck me. It's just a bold call to just don't be shit to people.
Yeah.
It's
that shouldn't be as controversial as it is.
You'd think.
Yeah. A very different take on illness now, and one that is maybe more characteristic of some of the films we've mentioned, maybe not. I don't know. Simon, talk to us about Alpha.
I had a feeling you were going to say that, yes. So this one, the third film by Julia Ducournau, the trailblazer from France, who seems to be doing body horror in various different sort of skin ripping fashions so far. This one is set in possibly the 1980s, against the backdrop of a autoimmune crisis where I don't really want to describe too much about how this illness manifests, because it was one of the more surprising things in a film this year that I've seen. But it's not difficult to see that it's meant to be a parallel to HIV and AIDS. Follows the eponymous Alpha, who is played by, I believe she's called Melissa Boros, who is incredible. She gets a dirty tattoo at a party, which is just a sort of like really scrappy A that's been sort of like stick and poked into her. And her mother is absolutely beside herself. She's a doctor. She's dealt with this crisis. She knows that her daughter is at risk of having this infection. And around about the same time that this happened, her uncle, who hasn't been on the scene in years, is played by Tahar Rahim, who is also incredible. He is a junkie. He is seemingly also suffering from this disease, despite not particularly showing many of the symptoms that other people have. And it's basically about Alpha learning to come to terms with the fact that her life may be ending, and that her social life is almost certainly in the gutter.
Look, I saw this at a very small press screening in which I was one of two to like it. And of which everyone else called it a mess in varying degrees of complimentary and very uncomplimentary. I think people fundamentally misunderstand Julia Ducournau as a director. I think what she is this immensely tactile director who cares very much about her environment and her characters, and that somehow gets lost in like her body horror stuff, which kind of isn't the end goal. And I think obviously the sort of the underpinning point of Alpha is this, I guess, AIDS-like virus, which is causing people to turn to stone. And people expect that to be a much bigger part of the movie than it actually is. And the movie we get is a much more thoughtful kind of turning the screw on generational trauma and all of those kind of things, but in a way that is genuinely heartfelt and genuinely horrible. I think it's probably one of her more emotional movies. And there's not a lot of reprieve throughout this, but I think the way that it deals with the movement of time is incredibly clever. And I think it's probably one of her movies that's got the most empathy to it as well. It's almost not a horror movie, which is what people would expect from her now. And I think maybe that'll wrong foot people if they're going in expecting Titan Part 2 or Raw Part 2 even. It's not that, but it is a really beautiful, very melodic movie.
Yeah, it's about the first experience with death that a lot of us may have, and the injustice of that being like for her, you know. It's had a very, very sniffy reception from Cannes, which is one of the most surprising things.
Matt, what film did they see? I don't understand.
Genuinely, I've got to say, I proposed the Cannes gas leak theory, which is there is a gas leak in one of the cinemas at Cannes Film Festival, and that's why everybody has deranged takes on the films that seemingly are alternate versions of movies we have never seen.
Exactly, and I'm genuinely like on the barricades for this film. It's one of the most devastatingly, human and multi-layered things I've seen in a while. I've seen a few criticisms of it being dour and miserable. Sorry, what is it supposed to be?
The thing which annoyed me most from what people have been saying is saying, it's a bit of an unsubtle AIDS allegory. It's basically an AIDS drama. What are you on about?
Yeah, exactly. Just because it takes the form of something else. I mean, there's a whole conversation that can be had around how the illness manifests that I understand that people might have an issue with.
I think it's amazing, but
I think it's amazing too. But yeah, It's one of those films that you do have to see to make your own mind up on. But yeah, it consistently knocked me to the curb. I think she's one of the greatest living filmmakers. Off the evidence of this 3, you know.
How does it stack on against Titan as well? Is it just?
I don't think it's quite as strong as Titan.
Yeah.
However, I do think it's better than Raw, and I really like Raw. I don't know, comfortably in the middle for me.
I think it's my favorite of the 3. I think.
Really? Wow.
Personally, yeah. I think it's probably my 11. This is my. I know we talked about our number.
Right.
11s, yeah.
Nice.
I think particularly. Especially there's a scene in like a hotel bedroom, which is way more slippery than I was expecting the film to go. And I was like, it took me a while to go like, I mean, deliberately not get a handle. And then it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's one of the more unreliably narrated films I've seen in a while.
And yeah, obviously, don't talk about the manifestation, but there's a point where there's a doctor examining the uncle, and something goes wrong, very badly wrong.
Believe me, reader, I gasped.
It's upsetting. It's like, Jesus Christ.
This is definitely in my top 20, and it could be far higher, but I need to rewatch it because there's several things I really want to bring up. It's a really good film, but there's details with it in that it is so intentionally dense for a lot of it, and kind of does a lot of time jumping and doesn't tell you when, and occasionally shows characters at different ages in the opposite times they're meant to be in, simply to illustrate their mindset. And it's only by the end that it becomes clear. And as such, I really want to rewatch it because in the knowledge of what it's actually saying, and I think it's really cool. I will note that in typical Julia Ducournau fashion, it has at least 2 utterly deranged needle drops, which I will not be able to stop thinking about, which I really love. Possibly not quite as crazy and wonderful as the Future Islands needle drop in Titan.
Kat, I assume you've seen this because you were at Celluloid Screams, so
yes. It was the closing night film at Celluloid Scream, and it had very mixed responses. There was people that didn't quite get it at all. You know, there was people who didn't watch the whole film and formed an opinion on it somehow. But yeah, the lead girl, I forget her name, but she gives a phenomenal performance because she's got a lot to kind of navigate through with all these, with all this like really dense text, and she does such a good job.
Yeah, it's one of those films that it's more about what is unsaid than is said. And I think that's really summed up in one scene involving one of the girls' teachers, where there's just this incredible weight that hangs over the entire thing, where those 2 characters know exactly what's happened, but no one else in the room does. And it's such an emotionally weighted moment, without being kind of schmaltzy or sentimental. It's just brutal in the way that it deals with it. You know, Julia Ducournau has often said of her work, like, whatever happens in her films happens within that universe. There is no metaphor. There is no sort of like, oh, is that real or is it not? It happens. And I think from that perspective, this is sort of her most obvious way of bringing that into more regular life, if that gets, because you're looking at normal people, you're not looking at, you know, a car shagging serial killer, as you are in Titan. But there's always room for a car shagging serial killer,
isn't there always?
I should note for people who want to see Alpha, a cursory knowledge of Edgar Allan Poe is recommended in advance.
Okay.
For reasons I will not specify.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
here,
we'll ask off Mike.
Yeah.
But I don't have a prior knowledge of Edgar Allan Poe, so.
Please read Mask of the Red Death before continuing.
Oh, okay. I see.
Okay, I did watch that recently.
We've got a couple.
Oh, yes, I get it now. Sorry. I've got it. Here we are.
Moving on from that, the only director who's appeared twice, if I got it right there. It's the other Osgood Perkins movie, which didn't get anywhere near as much press as The Monkey, but in Keeper.
Is that me again? Is that just me again?
You again.
Okay,
It's
right.
just you again.
What a surprise. It's about a relationship that's not very good. So check that off on your bingo card for me selecting something. I don't love this the way I thought I was going to love it. I only had a chance to see it fairly recently. Because again, it's not in quite Osgood Perkins' voice. It is written by someone else. And I think that's very visible. And I almost long for a version of this film that is written in Osgood's voice. Because the visuals are fantastic. The kind of whole idea around it is great. There's fantastic use of the space and just sort of that turning around without a jump scare, but somehow it's still being frightening and disarming and everything like that. But like, it's just missing that little tiny bit of Osgood that I think would kick it into another gear.
I really enjoyed Keeper. It was just kind of missed out on my 10, I think. It was maybe 11th or 12th. And I wasn't expecting to like it, but I think it just had such kind of unsettling scares. You know, it's a dread-inducing type of thing. It's like when you... For me, actually, I prefer The Monkey and Keeper to Longlegs. I wasn't huge on Longlegs, but I think that was a whole issue of hype that by the time I saw it, it'd been so overhyped. It was impossible to live up to those expectations. And Keeper was the other way. You know, Keeper didn't get huge reviews, but it was just very unsettling, and it had that on a second glance you see something, and that really kind of set it up really well. And it was, again, a whole feeling of dread. You know, something's wrong throughout. Caitlyn, you said about the kind of use of space, like it's all set within the one area. And I think the payoff was really, really kind of well executed for me as well. I enjoyed it overall. Yeah, I really liked it.
I highly recommend watching it with somebody who likes to point out all of the red flags that the main character should be picking up on, and just repeatedly saying leave or get a weapon, because that just made it a lot more fun for me.
I think as well, though, it's a film that justifies Nepo babies to some degree, right? Because you've got Osgood Perkins directing, you've got Rousseff Sutherland as Malcolm, and he is so good. Like his monologues and everything like that. We already know Tatiana Maslany is brilliant from her turn in The Monkey as the world's least comforting mother. But like, she is so good in this, and I think they play off each other very well. And I think certainly the trailer for this is one of the best trailers I've seen in recent memory, because it just and actually when you watch the film, that trailer doesn't quite pay it off, but it was so interesting to see that trailer and have it from that dual vision of like, well, who is the threat here? That's really delightful. I thought it was such a great trailer where there's so much emphasis sometimes on giving away the entire thing. I think that did it in a really interesting way.
This is me just finding out there's another Sutherland. It's like when you find out there's Luke Hemsworth. Like,
There's loads
I
of
didn't know there
Hemsworth.
was.
There's loads of
them. There's probably another 5 Skarsgårds. I didn't know.
I think there's 8
Tatiana Maslany.
Skarsgårds. Yeah.
Aye.
The Sutherlands are very prolific people.
I can imagine.
Is
Tatiana Maslany's just kind of infinitely watchable, I think. Like,
yeah.
We're going to start a new section of the show, and this is, I guess, a metafictional strand that I've noticed in the late releases this year. We're going heavy meta. There is always an intertext to these movies, and sometimes that intertext is a reality TV series. So Aidan, talk about something that's going to make us feel soiled and unpleasant in a very different way.
Because my last two picks are very much like that. Graham's talking about Predators, by the way, which is a documentary, one of two documentaries that are in my list. The other being obviously the lovely Gordon Spurtle, an eccentric, and this one, well, not so much. This is directed by David Ossett. It's a true crime doc, but of a different ilk. It is basically follows the creation of the infamous, I think it's NBC Hotline series To Catch a Predator, headed by Chris Hansen, who basically what he would do is be in cooperation with the police and all these different departments of justice, and basically get sting operations to get predators involved through decoys, and then just off camera just glide out of the closet and just basically say to these predators, "What you doing there, pal?" And then basically just grill them in real time about the horrors of it before they would get caught in the sting operation, these predators. It is a deconstruction of that. But I think what Ossett is really honed in on about this is the meta-fictional aspect, as Graham was mentioning before, about the horrors of like reality television. I mean, and he lets that point rampant throughout the whole this behemoth of a documentary, because it opens and all the unaired rushes of To Catch a Predator, and you hear every single note and uncomfortable phone call that is made between the decoys and the predators themselves. And if there's one feeling that you get from this, it is really just horrible. It makes you feel sick to the stomach listening to all these different things and watching all these interviews play out. But at the same time, it's not part of like the Netflix camp of true crime. It's not part of the anything of that caliber. It just purely focuses on the show itself, and it's divided into chapters. The show itself, the copycats, imitators that came after that, and then they slot in Chris Hansen's interview like towards the back end, which is quite neat, I think, because if he was in like being interviewed about, oh well, this is how this came about and now this came about, I just don't think it would have had the same punch really, the same dramatic heft to it. But there are multiple penny drops within this doc that, honestly, without spoiling it, is really quite unnerving in a way that honestly makes you, where Ossett's just flips the whole thing on its head, basically, and just makes you really think of, holy shit, that just happened, really? And then it's just like, honestly, my eyes were kind of glued to this thing throughout, because it is quite just telling and really unraveling and really fucking disturbing, that you just kind of think, oh my god, this is like really uncomfortable. But I'm just kind of thinking about this, watching this all unravel before my eyes and thinking, wow, okay, that was quite compelling and really quite powerful stuff. On top of this, there's like various points throughout this where you just feel the sense where Ossett's not really asking you to feel sympathy for these guys. There are plenty of like unabashed takes and unabashed not interviews, but clips of these predators breaking down into tears, where I see like the detractors saying to these people, oh, look at them, he's making us feel sympathy for like child sexual abuse predators and things like that, which is clearly not the case at all, because he makes that abundantly clear towards the latter half of the film that this isn't the case. But instead, what it makes you feel instead is like, basically, this is what happens when someone's life is basically destroyed through the fiction that the show creates. And you've got to remember, reality television is a form of fiction at the end of the day, because of how edited it can be. It is a cruelly quite compelling documentary that, honestly, it's not going to be a cheery thing. It's not going to be it's not cheerful. It's a deeply uncomfortable watch, and very quite uncomfortable in a lot of ways, but it is ungodly powerful documentary, and I thoroughly recommend. It is out on Paramount Plus. Again, another streaming service to add to watch this. So, but honestly, I would recommend that. He knocks it out of the park with this. It was really, really impressed with it.
Yeah, I started watching this the other day. I haven't finished it yet, but yeah.
It's definitely something.
Yeah.
I'm so tempted to make perhaps the hardest handbrake turn we've ever done in the history of these year reviews. Simon, tell us about Reflection in a Dead Diamond.
Yeah, with pleasure. So, Reflection in a Dead Diamond, the new film from Hélène Catet and Bruno Fazzani, two Belgian filmmakers who have specialized in hyper-sensory, really gorgeously erotic, violent, horrible, sort of like death dream trips with A Mare, Strange Color of Your Body's Tears, Let the Corpses Turn. Now, Reflection in a Dead Diamond is basically their take on a James Bond film, which if you are as bored by the possibility that Denis Villeneuve is going to do one. Sorry, it's not just a possibility; it's actually happening.
Yeah,
This is the antidote for that. So basically, a spy is played by Fabio Testi, I think. The classic
sounds right.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like an old Italian man. Yes, he's basically remembering a bunch of missions that he had on the Riviera versus such villains as a woman called Serpentine, who can rip off her own skin infinitely, and a guy who has basically a film projector for a face that can trick you into thinking that you're in a film. So we're sort of like maintaining this sort of like metatextual thread going forward here, because it sort of flicks between this very sort of slavishly reconstructed 1960s exploitation content, and then like kind of outside of that a little bit. I don't know. It's just an incredibly thoroughly entertaining film. I don't think they've made something that just doesn't like grab you by the scruff of your neck and throws you into its like really kinky, dark weirdness. I think this one probably like peels back the narrative layers almost as much as like you would find in a Quentin Dupieux movie, which can be a little exhausting. But I think it works here really nicely. Not for everyone, but yeah, really, really enjoyable for sickos like me.
Yes.
Is it coming out on Shudder, Simon, as well? Because
it is on Shudder.
That was a week ago. It did.
Yes.
Yes,
this was a late addition to my list here.
Yeah,
but it was a shoe in because Catet and Fazzani. I'm just like, well, it's probably going to get in there. And
because I saw A Mare for the first time this year, and
nice.
My God, it was like, honestly, just like, there's my vein, stick it in there now, please. Full needle in. Honest to God, it was like, it was the equivalent of being on heroin. Yes, I will admit, it's just like such a wild, just sensory overload that's just like, wow, that is bloody
this one's
normal.
more okay and like a kind of, whoa, that was fucking awesome.
Aidan, talk us through the other Euro fantasy we've got from this stretch. Tell us about the Ice Tower.
This is
so good, and I missed this one.
Yeah, so it was a hard one to track down because, like I say, it's just like very small release, but it's the new film from Lucille Hadslahalovic, who probably done a few things now. I mean, probably best known for like Innocence and Evolution as well, the body horror. And if you want another film that makes you go, ugh, this would have to be it. It's set in the 1970s. Basically, it follows an actress called Christina who's run away from home and then has stumbled across this film production of the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, The Snow Queen, in which the title character is played by Marianne Cotillard in full, has to be said, full Dietrich performance mode. It's just like she completely steals. It's a great performance from her, and just really, really quite just bewitching, and it's a bewitching and alluring film because you are placed in Christina's shoes as she just falls enamored with the performance and the art of the Snow Queen, as well as her as a woman, and it just really just makes you feel. Hazahalovich has always been great at just like making you feel tension throughout her films, but not knowing where it comes from, if that makes sense. And this has got to be another one where the person who plays, sorry, not Christina. Christina is the name of the Cotillard character, Gian and Bianca, who's the orphan who runs away. And she just really just like fumbles around these icy snow sets in a completely beautifully filmed mold. And it's just like, it in a lot of ways, it reminds me, I mean, I think Hazahalovich spoken about a fondness for Powell and Pressburger a lot for this. Which you can see in a lot of sense, like something like Black Narcissus, you could clearly tell had an influence with the full Technicolor glory. But it also reminded me a little bit of Tarkovsky in the landscape design as well, where just this, if there's this ethereal, just a quality just beating down on these people, and it is just a completely intoxicating, enrapturing environment that, honestly, it's hard not to be suckered in by it in a cool but also just quite harsh way. And on top of that, it's another film that will make you go, please don't go. And if a case in point, not through just only Cotillard's performance, but also because there is another performance in here. The scariest thing that I've had all year is that, and you probably know what I'm going to say, it's Gaspar Noé gets a cameo in this as the film's director. And if you ever think Gaspar Noé is just like this creepy looking dude to begin with, well, think again, because he's wearing a bad toupee on in this one. And it's yeah.
So that was that obviously there were a couple of Gaspar Noé and Lucille, and he did cinematography for her first film. Jean Pierre's Mouth, which, God, that's an incredibly uncomfortable scene in that film. If you know exactly the scene I'm talking about. Yeah, I really like her stuff. I mean, it's just an interesting way of like depicting like childhood and like childhood's discovering adults and how cruel they can be for the first time, which I think is interesting. I think and that comes up in the Ice Tower as well.
Yeah, no, it definitely comes up there, and and I think if you're expecting that, that's again more in a similar vein, but at the same time, it's just like great performances from Cotillard. Even Noé, I think, is pretty good in this, to be honest. Even though he's wearing this like stupid wig on his head, but even so, but of course, Clara Puccini, who I don't know who's acted before, but again fits into that mold of what you expect like a Hazahalovich film to be, and it's like really electric, really quite haunting experience that honestly strongly about the visuals, and not a lot happens in it, but once it suckers you in, it grabs you by the testicles basically and just doesn't let you go. That's how I like to pitch it. And would recommend it if you want to like a deer ruiner with predators, basically.
The horrible crow.
This might be my first film of next year because it's showing in my area, but I'm away just before New Year. But I'm really praying that there's going to be some screenings when I come back. It's either going to be that or Marty Supreme, but I think I might opt for the Ice Tower.
Cinema near me showed it, but they thoughtfully didn't advertise it. I guess because they wanted people to stumble across it by chance, like the heroine does. So I appreciated that commitment to the immersive experience, but also I wanted to see it, you cunts.
It was playing at a cinema near me, and it was an elusive, horrible bit of fantasy which you only glimpsed out of the side of your eyes, known as the one screening on one day. When I was doing an assignment, so I didn't get to see it, and it's a shame because I saw that trailer and it made me feel what I felt when I saw the Knife Plus Heart trailer years back, which is I need this in my life now. So
it's the horror film of the year that doesn't have a lot of horror in it, but at the same time, fucking hell. I mean,
I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Pillion from Cats.
Pillion. Yeah, Pillion. Yes. So every year it feels there is a piece of queer cinema that just kind of wins my heart. So we had All of Us Strangers a couple of years ago. And then we had Femme, and this year it's Pillion. It is it's a feature debut from director Harry Lighton, and it casts, speaking of, acting dynasties, a Skarsgård. We have Alexander Skarsgård as he's a leader of a motorcycle gang. He is a dom, and he's for a new submissive, and he happens across traffic warden / barbershop quartet singer, played by Harry Melling, and it kind of just chronicles their relationship. It's got some great intimate sort of like moments, which I think all of the press stuff was like, this film is very graphic. Yes, there is a penis which has been, there is a Skarsgård penis which has been designed by his go-to penis prosthetic guy. He did his penis infinity pool, and he's Pillion. But it's also really funny. It's such a funny film. It could have been a stealth Christmas film because it's bookended by Christmas. So they meet while he's singing Christmas carols in a pub, and then towards the end, it kind of goes back a year later to the pub again, and how things have changed. So it's also a Christmas film, but it's just really touching, really funny story of this submissive guy kind of finding his way in the world of kink in a much better way than Baby Girl, which I think was also this year. I think it was like January, February time. That we had Nicole Kidman in and got really hyped as like being like, oh, this is like really good, really sexy, or whatever. And it's not. It's really vanilla. It's really bland. But Pillion kind of corrects, at least for me, it corrected all of those mistakes. And it's another one of those films that I've seen 2 or 3 times, and I'm already itching to see it again, because I think there's just so much in it to enjoy.
This was one that until you had mentioned it, I hadn't heard anything about it. And then a couple of days later, walking through the View, there was numerous posters for it in my local View. And then I watched the Graham Norton episode with Alexander Skarsgård and Miriam Margolyes, which you have Miriam Margolyes on anything is box office. And it was awkwardly nice, the interactions between them, when he was saying he'd to knock back living in her thing because of sexual tension. And then so she just went to town on him. But yeah, and they played a clip from it, and I thought it, again, knowing nothing about it, I didn't even, I kind of knew just from his description during that what it was about, but it seems like it has a kind of great ensemble cast as well, because I recognised Harry Melling's parents as well as kind of actors for the UK. And
yeah, his parents are hilarious. So like their initial meetup is on Christmas Day, and they are like the most overbearingly involved, caring parents, just so inappropriate with what they say. Like the whole thing when Skarsgård's character comes to pick him up on a bike, they start talking about how to get rid of. They had a bike, they had to get rid of it, a van for when the kids came along. But you two won't have that problem, and or at least not yet. And it's just far funnier than I anticipated it being.
Excellent. And that brings us to December and the third of the Benoit Blanc movies, Wake Up Dead Man, Knives Out Mystery. Andy?
So this was my favourite of the Knives Out movies, like easily. And they've always got fantastic casts. This is based around the murder of a priest.
Monsignor, which I have no idea what they are, but priest.
Yeah, Monsignor. Yeah. So when I was watching this with Americans, and they said it's just a poor American pronunciation of Monsieur, is what they took it as.
Okay.
It's been American version, but whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. But so Monsignor. Monsignor Wicks, who's played by Josh Brolin, third time he's turned up in this episode. But what I've liked most about this one is your kind of vessel for the whole story is Josh O'Connor, who's Father Judd. And Josh O'Connor's just fantastic in it. I mean, the whole cast again. You've got Glenn Close, Daniel Craig, obviously, Thomas Hayden Church, for me, Sandman and Spider-Man 3, Kaylee Spenny, and Jeremy Renner as well. So you're always going to be stacked with
problem now, though, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and then Mila Kunis is in it. She's there. She's not good, but it's. I think again as a mystery, it works really well. I couldn't guess it, but that could be potentially just on me. Andrew Scott as well. Good forgetting about him. And Daryl McCormack, who I saw in Bad Sisters, and he's again fantastic in this. And yeah, it's a great cast. It's a great mystery. For me, it worked best because of how good Josh O'Connor's performance is in it. Daniel Craig's great. You know, I think it's strange that there's a high chance that come the end of his career, he's had Bond, that it could be Benoit Blanc is the thing that people remember him for, because he's such an endearing and enduring character, and he's not just cut into franchise. He's now got this other thing to be remembered by. I think that says a lot for him, and he's a bit less kind of Kentucky Fried in this. Is maybe the way it's kind of dialed down a little bit. And I'm maybe just referencing that because that's what I think what Chris Evans calls him in the first Knives Out, and I rewatched that in the lead up to this. He calls him like Foghorn Leghorn, Kentucky Fried bullshit. But he has toned it down a bit in this movie, and the fact that he's not the main focus, the story is essentially told through Josh O'Connor, who is just fantastic in it. If you like the Knives Out movies, you're going to like these. Even like Glass Onion's probably the least thought of, I think. Well, from the people that I know and that I've spoken to. But I still think that's a fantastic movie. To the point where, again, going by Letterboxd, Glass Onion is my least favourite, and I gave it 4.5. The other two I've got 5. This just worked on a whole level. And Glenn Close is a star turn in it. She's legendary, so you're never going to expect anything less from her.
I mean, people love these movies, and I certainly love these movies. The reaction in some quarters has been slightly odd in that, as with Wes Anderson, who we were discussing on the last show, there are some people who spend their life saying, "Oh, I wish they'd make, script-driven, star-driven, mid-budget comedy dramas again." And then when they actually fucking get them, it's no, not like that. And I think the Knives Out films are just wonderful, and this is my favourite so far.
Wow.
It is a more focused film than the other two. I liked Glass Onion a lot, but part of what I liked is that it exists on the same level of reality as like a good Simpsons episode, where it is sprawling and self-indulgent, cameo-packed, frequently sort of jabs at its film's sense of reality. Wake Up Dead Man is a much more cohesive and focused film to that, to the extent where it's basically a two-hander. I mean, there is a great supporting cast. There always is. There are people who get wonderful bits of business to do. I love Glenn Close in this movie. I think Callie Spaney is genuinely quite heartbreaking in this movie.
The comedy, again, really works in it. And if you're like me and you can't work these things out, then you're going to have a great time until you get it revealed to you. And I just thought it was fantastic.
This is a great movie to describe to people, and this is going to get really awful for a moment. Again, it has another great, less bloody, but another one of the great gore gags of the year. Again, none of them are beating the piano in Final Destination. But there's a bit with some stairs. Which made me wheeze with every single step. And if there's some great stuff, you get to see a movie where Jeremy Renner plays a character possibly based on himself. You get to see Josh Brolin get his hole out. You get to see Josh Brolin talking about having a wank to cat girls. No, really.
That's true. That's not an exaggeration at all.
I might take my headphones off because I really want to see this film.
Okay, we'll
avoid the little gags.
I'll curb it in. I'll talk about the general.
I'm really sorry. I will see it very soon. So dangerously soon.
Recommendation: watch it whilst in the bath.
I'll set up some mirrors.
Yeah, I'll steer away from specific things and talk about general impressions. It is part of that wonderful tradition of locked room mysteries. It's very upfront about that. You know, the Knives Out films are always in conversation with the history of whodunits, but this time it's more of an explicit point that the mystery at the centre of it is almost straight from a John Dixon Carr novel, and that becomes part of the film's overall commentary about storytelling and faith as it's mediated through this sort of triad of Josh Brolin's Blood and Thunder priest, Josh O'Connor, greatest actor of his generation's much gentler and more questioning priest, and Benoit Blanc's absolutely unshakable atheist. It is, again, a gorgeous looking film, a film that is now onto its second Netflix sequel. Should not look this good. The Netflix end shitification should have kicked in at some point, but Rian Johnson is just too good a classical controller of mise-en-scène and lighting to let that happen. It is once again incredibly funny, a slightly darker edge than normal, but you know, still with that sort of coziness that makes these things perfect for Christmas viewing. And I think that you know, it's very easy to be blasé about the second sequel to anything, but you can compare this to a lot of other things that are trying to do the same thing, you know, both before and after it, and there is just no one doing original script old-fashioned mysteries like this. You know, even something like See How They Run, which I thought was fun, but it's nowhere near as good as these movies. I was reminded of the BBC Sherlock series the other day, and it ruined my day. You know, I felt the anger from the Irene Adler episodes just rise up in me all over again. But yeah, it looks easy, but it isn't. It looks easy because it's been done so goddamn well. And yeah, I really love this movie. Now,
I did figure it out, but for me, what I love about the Knives Out films is that Rian Johnson always brings back his brick buddies. So he always has Joseph Gordon-Levitt, in it, and he always has Noah Sagan in it. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt is always an audio cameo. And in this, he is the baseball commentator on the TV.
So I know it's not a Sagan.
Yeah, when Noah Sagan is always there, and I love the fact that Ryan has cast him in every single one of his films. He's even in the Star Wars film. He's like an X-wing fighter for like 30 seconds. And if we are not building up to at some point Noah Sagan's character being revealed to be some sort of like master of disguise Moriarty type for Benoit Blanc, I don't even know what Rian Johnson is doing, because I just love that he's just there and Benoit interacts with him, and at no point is like, "Oh, you look familiar." Because he's always playing a different character. But if we're not going to like loop around for 4 and have him be like the villain who's been like whispering into the ears of all the other murderesses, I just don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, he's just like a pisshead in Glass Onion that lives on the island, isn't he? Just wanders about all the time on the beach. Yeah, and then he's the police officer in Knives Out. Aye,
or is he, Andy? Or is he? Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, now Kat said that, I would be disappointed if that doesn't happen. Knives Out, I know a second mystery.
Yeah, he can do them as long as he wants, really, can't he? It's very low stakes, and he seems to enjoy them. Like, I saw a video of did a parody of it on the Sesame Street, and I've never seen Never seen Daniel Craig happier than seeing himself as a Muppet, which is just very wholesome.
Yeah. And if they've been as successful, I don't know how these metrics are worked on Netflix.
I think it's hours watched.
Hours watched,
like
but
that.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll fudge it to however they want because there's no real proper metric of it in terms of box office. But they threw a lot of money at them for these three, and I would imagine they'd be happy to continue that just because you can see it, like the star power. Like, it's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jeffrey Wright's in it for a total of like 2.5 minutes,
which is just ridiculous. Getting someone good for that little.
Yeah. But aye, they'd be definitely.
Nice.
We've got a couple of films on the list that have been doing the festival circuit and won't come out until next year. So I think it's probably a good point to put them here. And Robyn, could you tell us a little about Mother of Flies while we're in our plague pit?
Oh, this is on the same theme, I will say, as a lot of these. As with Alpha, it's a movie about reckoning with your own potential death. Mother of Flies is the latest from no relation, the Addams Family, whose films I thoroughly admire, and it is decidedly a family affair. For some context, it is their most personal project, and their projects tend to be personal, as it is. The Addams Family have, as was given in a press document to me, I covered this one for the Geek Show. The family has a history with cancer, and this features in this film, which is a kind of fantasy folk horror film about a teenage girl who has cancer and has basically, she's been through chemotherapy and it didn't work out, and she's left basically hopeless, knowing that she is going to die. And then she travels with her father, who has no clue how to feel on any of this, but just wants to do anything that makes her happy, to the middle of the woods to meet with a witch called Solvig, who lives in a cabin, who offers to give her something which will cure her for no fee whatsoever. And this extended treatment which will hurt, and it will extract the cancer from her. And that is the only price she must pay. And it's clear, is anything actually happening and healing her? And what is Solvig actually wanting from this? What is the real price of this? And it's very much magic as science and medicine thing. It plays on a lot of ideas of the witch as a folk healer, and kind of it's very much a movie which, in flashbacks, we see her acts of witchcraft in the past in the 1700s, and it's clear that her dark rituals are simply forms of medicine that the church didn't like to touch. For example, there's a sequence where she performs an abortion, and it's notable that you think, oh, witchcraft isn't what we think it is here. It's only ungodly because it's what the church refuses to do. And it's interesting how it blurs the lines between medicine and magic throughout, particularly as the whole poisoning yourself to kind of extract the horrible tumor from inside you. You realize this is chemotherapy. And it's really, really interesting. And it also points out that to anybody who says that Americans can't do folk horror, oh no. When people are doing American folk horror that isn't just steal shit from the Native Americans, it rips. And specifically, it rips and tears through muddy, rotten flesh. This goes places, and it is a muddy, dirty film, not least because one of the characters is permanently surrounded by a swarm of flies.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, it's their best film, I think, so far.
My personal favorite is still either Hellbender or Where the Devil Roams.
Yeah.
I will also note this opens with one of the boldest opening images of a film that I've seen in a while, and that's coming from these filmmakers whose last film opened with a title card of a horse exploding.
Okay, I think I need to get on these guys.
They're good. They're
It's
very
coming out in January on wide release, so
yeah.
highly recommend.
Yeah, I second that.
Man Finds Tape. I think
Yes.
would be my top pick for next year. Because it has a release date, doesn't it, Rob?
Yeah, I got the wrong January. IMDb lied to me. Yeah. It's, I think, the 29th of January 2026, sorry.
You've shot back a decade, but that's fine.
Yeah, okay. Easy mistake. But yeah, there's a lot. For me, just to, like, pick three, because I know there's one that Kat will probably earmark for herself. But Burning was a Kyrgyzstan movie. I think I've seen that at Fantasia, which was really, really strong. Sort of a Rashomon, different stories from the same story from different perspectives sort of movie. Kinky, which sounds like it's a fetish movie, but it's not. It's a region in Japan by the guy who did Noroi and other sort of stuff. And a comedy J-horror called Mag Mag, which I particularly enjoyed. I think they played at Fright Fest Halloween as well, but I can't imagine in Amsterdam. But they're three, which I think are pretty cool and worth keeping an eye on. But Kat, yourself.
So Redux is coming out. I think it's coming out in February in the UK via Bluefinch. It is. I've talked about it on many of these things. It is a lo-fi sci-fi with lots of Terminator DNA from the directors of Block Island Sound. So if you like that, it's one to check out. It's a woman traveling across the multiverse, tracking down and killing the man that murdered her daughter. So it's that. I mean, I championed for it so hard it screened at Fright Fest, mainly because I did nothing but badger to screen it. And it played really well. So yeah, Redux. Sticking with the double title, Dooba, which I caught at Panic Fest, and it also screened at Fright Fest. That's got a US release in the start of January, and I think there's one in the UK to follow, hopefully not too long after. It's kind of a found footage film told through home security videos. One babysitter's really rough night babysitting an awkward teenager who makes it their mission to kind of like just be a little shit, really, and it just kind of escalates and escalates and escalates to just
that one caused a lot of anxiety with people who saw that. I heard.
I watched it at home, like just just on laptop, and I was anxious enough, like God bless those brave souls that watched it in a cinema setting, because it's horribly uncomfortable. Others, I say Crossword, which screened at Soho. Soho Horror was. I really enjoyed it when I spoke to the director, Michael Vlamis, and I have a whole new appreciation of it. It was inspired partially by some of their lived experiences, which just are brutal. The fact that they managed to function at all, let alone function enough to make a film that shared similar themes, was just incredible. Human, which screened at Fright Fest, which will hopefully be getting a release at some point next year. It starts off as a Screen Life film, then becomes an Evil Dead film, and then becomes a philosophy film.
Andy, I know you never did as many film festivals, but do you have any too?
I've kind of got a few that just due to the enjoyment I got out of interviewing the people that were involved. So Weekend at the End of the World, a kind of pro-comedy sci-fi thing, which again the cast and crew were lovely to interview. Tribe, I found footage, strange, otherworldly sort of there's aliens and things style movie. Wormtown, about an infection going around a small town in America, which I really enjoyed, and one that I forgot to write down, but I'm trying to bring it up now. It was I Saw the Devil. I Saw the Demon. I Saw the Demon. Yes, I See the Demon. Sorry. Again, a movie that maybe wasn't what you would expect it from. The trailer got provided, but going basically by the interviews I had with the cast and crew that I really enjoyed, and their movies were also good as well.
Yes.
To finish us off, a sentence I've been wanting to say for the whole of this recording. Robyn, tell us about Lesbian Space Princess.
Yeah. This was a movie, again, I caught on a whim. I have a cinema membership, and I went out of my way to pay for this based on the title, and also based on what I had seen from it, which was there was an Australian indie animated film with no distributor that was going to be playing for one day, funded by Manchester Pride. We will maybe miss you until something else comes in a way to replace it. Then we might not. But this film is an interesting film because I actively paid to see it, and I sat down, and it is an experience. It is somewhere between my beloved Netflix She-Ra series and Smiling Friends. It is an internet shitpost, essentially, of the greatest kind, which is great to watch in a full audience of queer people. With the concept, a deadbeat lesbian has to learn how to do literally anything in order to rescue her ex-girlfriend from straight white malians, which have the greatest ever character design I've ever seen. Note that if the name Auntie Donna means anything to anybody,
that's all I know about this film is they're in it, and that's enough to
they
really want to
voice
watch
characters with the greatest character design ever. When you see them, they are rectangles. They are just rectangles with increasingly less detail by each scene, who are possibly the best part of the film, simply because every single line they say is just pure chaos. And I think half of them may have been improvised simply because they just go on tangents. And it's quite a lovely film. I felt very seen in a lot of ways. It's just delightful in so many ways. It's a lot of fun. It's also basically a very online shitpost, which features the occasional mixed media shot, which is often cut to paper model of something you've just seen animated being set on fire or exploded. It's great fun. It's great fun, and it does the stupid thing which makes me laugh, which is hard cut to something really, really grotesque with really loud noise, because I am dead in my brain cells are gone. I think COVID got me. Yes, I did laugh, and it's very funny that one of the major characters is a ship's computer who just says increasingly concerning, awful things that you would not be able to say in a film otherwise without naming it Lesbian Space Princess. Because it is just great how one of the characters we have in it is just incessantly and insistently homophobic the entire way through, and it is somehow really funny.